Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. Tonight is Tuesday, November 9th. It is about 7:30 something, 7:32 p.m. Tonight is a Planning Zoning Commission general meeting and public hearing. I am with Jeremy Ginsburg and Fred Donite here in Town Hall in room 213. And this meeting is also being held virtually via GoToMeeting as per the governor's order. Tonight we have a general meeting first and then a public hearing after. And we can get right into it, right?
Yes.
The first item on the agenda is election of officers. Before we get into that, I want to welcome Adam, our newest commissioner. Where are you, Adam? I lost you. Jesus, hold on a second. Adam.
Hello.
Hi, Adam.
Welcome.
I just lost Adam again.
I lost him again. Where is he? Adam, wait.
On my screen, I'm in the upper left corner.
Great.
No, it's different on everybody else's screen.
Blue,
Yeah.
just say blue plaid
Oh,
shirt.
there he is. I got a blue shirt. There you
Me.
go. You
It's
had
so
your
nice.
name. Your name was underneath your name, but now we have over 100 people here, so your name disappeared.
Sorry.
Welcome.
Thank you. Good to be here.
Strap your seatbelt in. We're gonna have a nice, fun ride.
I'm excited.
Good. So welcome out. One day we can sit down and you can tell us about yourself, which we usually do, but you're already elected, so we'll have to postpone that. So the first item on the agenda is election of officers. The first officer that we typically elect is the chairman. Are there any nominations for chairman? Ms. Gately.
I nominate Steve O'Vanny to be chairman. I think you've done a fantastic job over the last couple of years through some very contentious and technical and really important applications. So I nominate you to continue as chair.
Thank you, Kara. It's very nice of you. I appreciate that. Is there a second for that nomination?
Jeff Paul.
Jeff Ball, second the nomination. Thank you. Are there any other nominations for a chairperson? Okay, that being said or not said, nominations are closed. And then I think we just take a vote. So all those in favor of, Jim Rand was supposed to do this, wasn't he?
Well, I don't know what Jim is here
I was
somewhere.
supposed to do
Where's
what?
Jim?
Yeah, you're supposed to do this. You're secretary, sir.
It's okay.
I think it's the senior member, whoever has the longest tenure on P and Z.
Yeah, it's still me. Okay.
That's all.
Sorry about that. Okay, all those in favor of Stephen O'Vanny being chairman,
1, 2,
say aye.
3, 4, 5. 5.
I'll vote for
6.
myself.
Got it.
6. Fantastic. Thank you, everybody, for entrusting me again with your care. I will promise to do my best. The next position up for election would be the vice chairman. That would be up. I would like to nominate George Riley as vice chairman. Is there a second to that?
I'll second it.
Thank you, Jim Rand. Are there any other nominations for vice chairman? Seeing none, we will close, take a motion to close nominations for vice chairman. With that said, all those in favor of Mr. Riley being vice chairman of the Planning and Zoning Commission, say aye.
3, 4, 5, 6. Got it.
Fantastic. There we go.
Thank you all. Appreciate the vote of confidence.
You're welcome, George. The next position is the secretary of the Planning and Zoning Commission. I would like to nominate Miss Carrie Gately for the secretary to the Planning and Zoning Commission. Is there a second for that? Jim Rand, it got a second for that. Are there any other nominations for secretary of the Planning and Zoning Commission? Seeing none, let's take a vote. All those in favor of Miss Carrie Gately being the secretary to the Planning and Zoning Commission, say aye.
2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
Looks unanimous. Miss Gately, you are now the secretary of the Planning and Zoning Commission. Make sure you read the fine print on public notices. Your name will be underneath it in the newspaper every week. Fantastic. All right, we have our new officers. The next item on the agenda is the adoption of the 2020 meeting schedule. inside your packet, we got a draft meeting schedule. Again, we're going to start the readings at 7:30 p.m. This schedule basically starts in the month of January. We have a few more meetings in the month of November scheduled. We may possibly have a special meeting in December, then we take the rest of December off, and then this new schedule comes in January. The staff tries very hard to make sure that there are no conflicts with vacations, school vacations and whatnot. And I think this year we also already have election day off.
Yes.
Right? Election day is the 8th. The last couple of years we had an election day meeting, we don't. Any questions, comments on the proposed meeting schedule? Again, we have no meeting in the month of August too.
Do we
Okay.
know what day Thanksgiving is? Just November 22nd and the 29th seems a little aggressive.
We're always,
I
well,
know, but
Thanksgiving is always on a Thursday and we always meet
no,
on.
I know. I'm just saying, which day is the 22nd, the Tuesday before and the Tuesday after?
Is there a Tuesday in there? Maybe the 22nd is a Tuesday. I bet you the Thanksgiving is the 24th.
And then we have the Tuesday after.
We can change it to be the 1st and the 15th and the 29th if you wish. Doesn't matter.
We have right now the 1st, the 15th, the 22nd, and the 29th.
Feel free to delete any one of those you wish.
It just host it, like, that's a lot. Just, even no one else thinks it's a lot. Just, Thanksgiving, that's a lot, personally. But
Do you want to drop one?
Just drop.
I mean, if
Just drop the
everyone else
22nd.
thinks I can just not be there, but I just think I just think around Thanksgiving with kids coming home, and it seems a little aggressive to me.
All right, let's drop November 22nd. Okay,
Because people travel and like go crazy at shopping, like,
I got 3 kids coming home from college next week.
yeah, I mean, you really can.
I
Okay,
don't think we have a meeting.
I'd rather scratch it now than cancel it with applicants thinking that they can have that there's a public hearing that day.
that's
I'm
fine.
looking at the calendar. I don't see any meetings the week of Thanksgiving.
No,
Right, but we typically have 3 a month times 10 months for 30 a year. And that 1 month we have 4. So that's why Kara made a note of it.
Thanksgiving is the 24th, so the 22nd would be the week of Thanksgiving.
Yeah, I'll be in Stu Leonard's that day.
yeah, so that's why I'm saying, like, I just think that we should maybe take that one off.
Okay, done, gone. Any other changes or questions on this one?
Sorry, Adam, we were talking about the 2022, the proposed calendar, not this year.
Yeah, I just realized that.
Sorry, I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
Rookie mistake, it's okay.
No, it's not. No.
With that adjustment, I would take a motion to approve the draft calendar as submitted, as edited. Carrie, you made that motion?
Sure.
Thank you. Jim Ray made the second. All those in favor? Fantastic. 6-0. Great. All right, that's that. The next item on the agenda is subdivision application number 629, Peter and Catherine Thomas, 130 Leroy Avenue. Request for extension of time to follow a map in a Darien Land Records. We got a quick note from the applicant saying that they have, some of the people that are looking at a little bit more time for due diligence. We
Correct.
typically grant, what, 6 months?
Yeah, it's certainly, based on my conversations with the property owner and potential builder, I think 6 months would be sufficient time.
That makes sense, everybody else? We do this all the time. Okay, it's a general meeting item, so we just need to take a quick vote. Okay, with that said, Jim Rand makes the motion, Kara Gately makes the second. All those in favor? There we go. Everybody, fantastic. What are their first names again? The Thomases get their extension. All right, next item on the agenda is deliberations and possible decision on the following. Coastal site plan review number 363, flood dam prevention application Number 169A is an Apple, Land Filling Regrading Application. Number 55A, John Daileader at 32 Plymouth Road. And in our packets, we have a draft resolution on this one. This is, I got it. This is the house that's in the bay, where they're gonna build a new pool house at the backyard and a pool that's gonna be kind of sort of up on a platform. Bingo, I got it. Everybody should have, sorry about that, got that. Hey, lawyers, do you guys want these things sent to you in draft again electronically? Or are you okay with this? And Adam, you can tell the commission, the staff too, if you like to read stuff electronically, if it's easier for you to edit. Questions, comments, scrivener's errors, typos on this thing? The guy who presented to us was Mr. McCord. We didn't really have any issues with it. We just wanted to make sure that we knew the height of the building and their lot coverages. I didn't catch anything in here that jumped off the page to me.
Right, this is the one where the commission is requiring that there be no kitchen. There's a typo in condition A. See
Okay,
that?
that's what I was wondering about.
Yeah, there's a typo, but basically the commission saying you can't have a kitchen, cannot have a kitchen in the pool house. Condition A, last sentence. And that's condition E as well.
Right, because like these will ensure that the pool house does not become a second dwelling.
Correct.
Okay.
Other than that,
And did we say anything about here that acknowledge that the upstairs floors can't have bedrooms either? And if they ever do, they're gonna change the windows? I mean, we didn't get deep
we'll
into
leave
that.
that to the fire marshal in terms of.
Okay.
And the building
That's
inspector.
fine. We warned them about that. Okay, so we got one typo on page 4 of 6. Anybody else get anything on this one?
Sorry, where is that typo?
Right here.
Sorry, it's on 4.
We got it, we got it.
It's on page 4. Remove AN 6Y reference.
And I don't see anything about the windows.
No, I don't think it made it. We left that to the fire marshal.
Okay.
Building, that's a building department question. Anything else, folks? Nope. Okay. With that said, I'd entertain a motion to approve as edited. Adam, you in the game?
I don't know if you put on this one.
You read it.
You did?
Did you read the resolution, right?
It was George.
Yeah.
George made it. George made the motion? There you go.
Never.
There you go. Looking for a second? There you go. Adam, can we take him, you think? Or no?
Well, you can second the motion.
You can second the motion.
Yeah.
Great, okay. All those in favor?
Okay.
6-0.
Just wanting to, Adam, just confirming that you watched the hearing on this matter?
I did watch the hearing on the matter. Yep.
Great, thank you.
Fantastic.
6-0, Adam.
Got it. Okay. The next item up for bid is proposed amendments to the Darien zoning regulations, COZR number 6-2021, put forth by Baywater Housing Partners LLC and Ableist, Inc. This relates to 26 where at the end of the day, somebody's got. You guys can turn off your microphones, the participants, that would be helpful, if you don't mind. This is where we're allowing, we're changing the criteria for the residents in the building from intellectually disabled to developmentally disabled, pretty much.
Right, the resolution walks through the applicant's proposal, I guess kind of methodically on page 3, each of the changes that they propose in each different section, 454A1, 454A2, 454A3, 454C, 454D. It goes through each item one by one and has the commission address them individually. On page 4, the the commission makes its requisite findings relative to the town plan of conservation and development. And on pages 4 and 5, it shows the red line versions of what's going in the regulations, what's coming out. And so we tried to be as methodical as possible, looking at each change individually. And that's really outlined on pages 2 and 3. It also talks about the public input we received during the hearing process.
The big thing that we recognized in the hearing was on page 4, which is 454, it's A2, where it says such person intellectually disabled as defined by the Connecticut General Statute. We changed that to the United States government statute, regardless of age and onset of such disability.
We've also included in the resolution the effective date of Sunday, November 28th, which gives us time to publish the legal notice in the paper as required by law and file it with the town clerk and prepare new regulations online and hard copy. So although it seems a long ways away, it will creep up shortly. So a lot of work to get done in that short period of time.
Okay, fantastic. That's all good news. I want to say the other thing is, just so the commissioners know, we had Attorney Fox look at this.
He did, and he had no changes.
Okay. So it did go to outside counsel or
Town council.
town council, we call it. They looked at it and signed off on everything that is happening. So any questions, comments, typos, scrivener's errors? Kara, go ahead, Kara.
Sorry, just to belabor a point, I think while this is a broader definition, which as a lawyer initially made me uncomfortable, I think there were a lot of commenters who spoke about, well, this could allow in this and this could allow in that. I think Ableist, on behalf of the applicant, spoke so convincingly and I think persuasively on why the additional flexibility was necessary and why this allows for additional inclusivity. And I think that really, was very moving to me. And while it's a broader definition, I think also that the Connecticut Department of Disability, reached out to the applicant and discussed this with them, which I think came out during the public hearing, is important to note. And I think additional inclusivity and that allowing them to the residents potentially to receive additional funding is important to note. While it doesn't really affect our decision, it should be something we should consider, because we should not do things that harm potential residents. And I know it's been said, and I've said it before, I was really so moved by the potential applicants and their parents and ableists. And I think this is really such a great thing and an important thing for our town and for the state of Connecticut. So that's all I want to say. I'm sorry, I know I'm annoying. I'm sorry, but I think this is really an important application.
I agree. That's very well said. Thank you. Anybody else want to comment on this resolution? Typos, scrivener's errors, any other additions, subtractions? I think they did a great job. It looks like we changed non-profit for not-for-profit.
That's correct. That was one. There were a couple of clarifications in here. So again, we were very methodical as we went through to outline what's changing and the reason for the change, and then put it on page 4 and 5 so it's clear what changes are being made. And again, it goes into effect November 28th.
Okay, and just for my own edification, like Garden Homes and Avalon, they submit to the town every year, once a year, on their confirming that their applicants are perfect.
Yes.
And so does what's the Clock Hill Homes?
Tokenique Road, 2333 Tokenique.
Perfect.
So the applicants, what you meant to say was qualify by income
Got it.
for the affordable apartments.
And that's what we changed. We changed that for item D as in dog at the end. Okay, cool. Got it. With that said, I'm looking for a motion to approve as submitted. Kara Gately makes a motion. Jeff Ball makes the second. All in favor? Aye.
6-5. Adam, confirming again that you watched the tape of the hearing?
Yes, I did watch that one as well.
Great, thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Um,
All righty. Unanimous. Thank you. So these guys can move in like
No.
Thanksgiving? Or not?
Well, this doesn't take effect till November 28th.
Okay.
And then there's other things that need to be done behind the scenes. So I'll continue to work with Attorney Bob Maslin in terms of, and Wayne Fox, getting everything shipshape.
Got it. Fantastic. Good luck to those people. All right. Next item on the agenda is approval of minutes from October 5th and October 19th. I got my draft. October 5th. Excuse me. We had Norotan Heights asking for their outdoor dining section. Wow, that was a month ago. Holy smokes. 108 Water Lane. Is this one I came late at? Oh no, I was here. Oh, this is the second. We had Near Water Lane where we talked about that house subdivision on Near Water Lane. We did the opt-out provision for the general state statutes. 0-0. We talked about that proposed amendments to the put forth gross floor area dwelling units. Wow, that's a while ago. Holy smokes. Ethos, that was the woman that put in the stuff that is in the old Huntington Learning Center. Is that right? Huntington Learning Center. We have a resolution from November 5th. Can't touch that. Another resolution on November 5th. Can't touch that. What's at the end? Butler Island, we talked about that. The pool over the small patio. Ethos, we went through that thing. Yep. Any questions on this? Typos, scribner's errors, anything that we missed? Changes to the minutes? I didn't catch anything. With that said, I'm looking for a motion to approve as submitted. Jim Rand makes the motion. Jeff Ball makes the second. All's in favor? Fantastic. You want Adam voting on this or not?
Yeah, if you watch the meeting, absolutely, you can vote.
Okay.
I did.
6-0. Adam's in the game.
Watched a lot of old meetings the last couple of days.
We love Adam. I mean, I don't know.
I thank Jim Cameron for that. Okay, next item on the agenda is minutes from October 19th. Yep, it was a special meeting. We had the wall on Hillside Avenue, that's the retaining wall that they put in a different spot and they moved the boulders. And that was one of our nights for the ableist project. Then again, the second night on Nearwater Lane, the Butler's item thing we did. We have a resolution from Butler's Island, which we can't change that. What do we got next? 5 Mile River Road, we did the deliberations on that. That was next to another house. The Daileader, talked about that one. I think that was deliberations 2. And then Butler Island was another deliberations. Public hearing. This was our first night on Parklands for the site plan application. We did that in 2 separate pieces. Here's all the minutes on that. Mr. Hennessy did his talking. David Parr, project architect. Mr. Hennessy, Galante did his stuff. Okay. Rand did his stuff. Then we had the public speak. Questions, comments on this one? Typos, anything they missed? Go ahead, Karen.
I guess I should not vote on this one, right? Because I recused myself midway, like.
Sure.
Yeah, you can stay out of it.
I mean, I can't speak to like a lot of the minutes, so.
Right,
Okay,
yeah,
great.
that's good. Yeah, I'd stay out of it.
All right, I just want to like be clean and clear about that.
Anybody else have any questions, comments on this one? George, you good? Jeff Paul, any typos, bud? All good? Okay. With that said, looking for a motion to approve as submitted. Jeff Paul, you make that motion? Yep, there's Jeff Paul made the motion. Jim Mann makes the second. All those in favor?
5-0.
5-0 to 1. Great.
Yep.
Fantastic.
Got it.
That's it. Thank you. That's done. Other business, 2/3 vote. We're not doing any other business, right?
Right.
Next coming meeting, we have a meeting next week, then we're off for Thanksgiving week. All right, we're good with the general meeting?
Yep.
Okay. Okay, now we're gonna go into the public hearing for tonight. It's about 10:57.
7:57.
7:57? Wow, 10, Jesus. I would read the first one. Are we doing
We're
the
going to
first?
open it, immediately continue the first item.
Okay, got it. First item on the agenda is flood damage prevention application number 416, land filling and regrading application number 518, Jeffrey Bluestein and Marguerite, how do you pronounce that? Konopakis?
Yep.
At 49 Stony Brook Road, proposal to construct a replacement bridge over the Stony Bridge consisting of new framing, decking, and guardrails to provide access to the existing residents on the property and to perform related site development activities, including widening the channel of the brook within a regulated area. The 3.05 plus or minus acres subject property is located on the west side of Stony Brook Road, approximately 1,000 feet south of its intersection with Leroy Avenue, and is shown on Assessor's Map number 19 as Lot 28 in the R1 zone. Go ahead, Jeremy.
Sure. This is a bridge that washed out during the September 1st storm. And the folks have a property on Stony Brook Road, but their access to their house is a bridge across Stony Brook. And that bridge got washed away. So the engineer, the structural engineer, is in the process of literally designing a new bridge. It needs EPC approval, it needs Planning and Zoning Commission approval. So what we suggested to the structural engineer, he just submitted more plans today. We're going to open the hearing tonight, immediately continue it to next Tuesday, November 16, 2021 at 7:30 p.m. So if any neighbors were notified on this, the hearing will be continued to next Tuesday at 7:30. I would implore the commission members to go out. This is a highly unusual circumstance.
Jeremy,
Yes.
is there a way, because everyone kind of knows I'm a little bit visually, like I'm better like on written words and not so great visual. Would you or Jeremy or you or Fred or someone
go
from
with
staff
you.
be willing to go out with me?
Yep, you let us know when you want to go. We're around, obviously, during the daytime.
Okay, yeah.
You really have
Whatever
to see this one.
they're free. This to me is really, really, really important.
Yep. It's
And
as I said, it's an unusual application, and you'll be amazed at what the force of water can do when you
I
see.
wouldn't, I'm from Long Island. I would not, my mom lives in Atlantic Beach, so I would not be surprised, but I certainly empathize, and I know how devastating the force of water can be, especially when the access to your home is just so. But I would like people who know better than I, like who can, like from a technical standpoint,
Sure,
show
call
me
it.
what I'm looking at and like
We're
walk
around.
through it, if that's okay.
Sure, just let us know. So that'll be on next week's agenda, November
Okay.
16th, 7:30 p.m. And if a commission member wants Fred or I to meet him out there, give us a call or send us an email. We'd be glad to do so.
Hey, Kara, I'm probably gonna go on a Sunday.
On a Sunday, okay. I'll
Yeah.
go. I'll go when you go. So just text me, like, cause I'll go then too.
Will do. Okay, great. I would like to take a motion to amend the agenda so I can change the batting order. Can someone approve that for me? Kara Gately makes it, approves it, and then Jeff Ball seconds it. What I want to do is move the continuation of 3 Parklands, and the other continuation of 3 Parklands, the second item, the special permit application, to the end of the agenda. So with that said, we can do Goodbye Shopping Center first.
We object to
Probably someone else has to move that, not me.
Alex Woods, we object to that.
Wait,
I think someone else should move that, not me.
No,
Okay,
well,
that's
let
fine.
me explain, The Good Wife Shopping Center application, we believe will take 10 to 15 minutes. And then I think we're gonna continue the 92 Half Mile Road application. So no one leave just yet. We're gonna get to that Parklands pretty quickly.
So first time, the last one that's on the agenda, 92
Half Mile.
Half Mile River Road is gonna be postponed. We have to open that one too.
You have to open it, and again, it'll be immediately continued to Tuesday,
Okay.
November 16, 2021 at 7:30
I
PM.
have to have to reorder the agenda first, right?
Yep.
Okay, so did we get a motion to approve the request to change the agenda, and I need a second for that. Jeff Paul, great, okay, so we're gonna move Parklands, the first item and second item to the end, so we can do the Good Wives shop. We'll move, actually, the next one first.
Yep.
The subdivision application next, and then we'll do Good Wives Shopping Center after that. All right, so hang tight, Kara. Next item on the agenda is going to be subdivision application number 630, land filling and regrading application number 517, irrevocable trust for descendants of Eugene G. Bucus III at 92 Half Mile Road. Proposal to divide the subject 4.92 plus minus acre property into two separate building lots respectively, 2.722 and 2.198 plus or minus acres in size. The existing residence and associated improvements on the lot are to be raised. Construct a new single-family residence on the newly created westerly building lot. Construction of a new driveway, pool, and patio, and installation of stormwater management, a septic tank, and perform related site development activities. Though conceptual improvements are shown on the easterly building lot, development of the lot is not proposed at this time. The subject property is located on the northeast corner formed by the intersection of Half Mile Road and Hollow Tree Ridge Road, as shown on Assessor's Map number 2 as Lot 24 in the R-2 zone. Jeremy,
We're going to open this public hearing tonight
you just opened it.
and continue it to Tuesday, November 16, 2021. And again, commission members, if you have a chance to go out there and take a look at the site, that'd be great.
Fantastic. Okay. So anyone here for that application? We're going to move
Are
that.
we allowed to just go out to properties and just drive through it?
Well, usually what we do, Kara, is certainly when people submit an application, we do let them know that there's a chance that staff or the commission members will visit. If commission members want Fred or I to go out with you, glad to do it. It's always good for us to take a look at the sites multiple times.
Okay.
But we do ask that commission members go out during daylight hours, gets
Yeah, of
dark.
course.
And if you want to give notice, oftentimes there's a contact on the form, and just the courtesy of letting them know, hey, I'm coming to the site. You don't need to meet me there, but letting the engineer know or the property owner.
I just would prefer people to not think I'm some I know there's a lot of break-ins and car, I just would rather people know if there's a car driving in their driveway.
Make sure you bring your ID card with you. Jeff Ball got an ID card. All right.
I just want to make sure the protocol and everything. Thank you.
Next item on the agenda is business site plan application number 24-AB, special permit Clean Juice at 25 Old Kings Highway North, Good Wife Shopping Center. Proposed to establish a new 1,371 plus or minus square foot quick service restaurant within the first floor space formerly occupied by Runner's Roost. The space is located within the Good Wife Shopping Center, located on the southeast side of Old Kings Highway North, approximately 150 feet southeast of its intersection with Brookside Road, and is shown on Assessor's Map number 71 as Lot 19 in the DC zone. Jeremy, what do we got?
Fred, you want to take this one?
Sure. So this is as Mr. Mulvaney, Chairman Mulvaney mentioned, quick service restaurant in the Good Wife Shopping Center in the space that was formerly occupied by Runner's Roost. the applicant had submitted a letter and floor plan detailing the business. It looks like they're going to have as many as 12 employees. However, only 1 to 2 employees working at a time, serving juices, serving light fare. And I believe the applicant, Victor Rivera from Clean Juice, is here this evening to describe the application to the commission.
Just
Yes.
for the commission's hold on one second, sir.
Sure.
Just for the commission's edification, every time we do restaurants and personal services in the shopping center that require a special permit, it has to come in front of the commission. We tried fixing that with regards to Federal and Palmer's on a going forward basis, but Good Wives is in a different zone. So every time they basically change a tenant, they have to come to us because of parking. Mr. Rivera, welcome.
Well, thank you so much.
Go ahead,
So-
sir. Tell us what you're gonna do here. You're making up a juice bar?
Yeah, so Clean Juice is a USDA organic juice bar. We will be serving items such as toast, sandwiches, smoothies. We have cold pressed juice cleanses. So we're looking to bring a very healthy product to Darien and introduce people to our produce, our organic produce.
Fantastic. It's a good location for it too.
Yeah, we're very excited to be there.
Any questions from the commissioners to this applicant, Mr. Rivera? Kara saying,
No questions at this point.
yeah, I'm gonna ask the commissioners if they have any questions of you. I think I'm in good shape. Kara Gately's okay, Jim Rand's okay, Jeff Ball getting me a thumbs up. Bingo. Where's Adam? Adam, you good? Any questions, sir? And George Riley, where are you? You good? Okay. That's kind of simple, right? It's just an application. All right. With that said,
Anything on the public?
with the general, I'm off my game tonight. Is anyone in the general public like to speak to this application? Are we monitoring the chat box or anything like that?
Yep, we're met, yep.
Okay.
But yeah, a lot of the details of the application, the hours, number of employees. Victor, any outdoor seating or dining at this time, or you're holding off for a while?
We're holding off for right now, but probably in the spring we'll apply for a little bit some outdoor seating, limited.
Okay,
Okay. Just to check one thing, your application says, or your cover letter says, we will employ an average of 20 to 25 employees. They're not going to be all in the store at the same time, right?
That's correct. On a shift, the most you'll have is 3 employees.
Okay, great. That's what we kind of thought. Alrighty. Okay, with that said, I would entertain a motion to close this hearing. That's Kara Gately makes the motion, Jim Rand makes the second. All's in favor? Great. The hearing's closed. Mr. Rivera, what we do is next week we will deliberate, or next meeting we'll deliberate this. And might we have a draft ready for him?
we might. It's a short week this week because we don't work Thursday or Friday
Of this week?
this week.
Thanksgiving's not this week, is it?
No, Veterans Day. So
Oh, good for you.
if the commission doesn't decide it next Tuesday, the 16th, they'll decide it on the 30th.
Okay.
So you can technically be in there December 1st.
Well,
Okay.
Great. All right.
Thank you so
Thank you,
much for your
sir.
approval.
You're welcome. We didn't prove it yet, but we're close. All right. That's good. So Ms. Gately, we're going to go into the stuff on Parklands next, and I think you recused yourself.
I am recused. Bye, everybody. Thank you.
Thank you, Karen. All right, let's go back to where we were. The next item on the agenda is continuation of a public hearing regarding proposed amendments to the Darien zoning map COZM number 2-2021, 3 Parklands Drive, put forth by Darien Parklands LLC. That's the overlay. Someone open up the other one too.
Yep.
Okay, now I'm going to open up the other item on the agenda, the other public hearing. Continuation of public hearing regarding site plan application number 309, special permit application number 42-I, land filling and regrading application number 516, Parklands Drive LLC, 1 Parklands Drive and 3 Parklands Drive. This is the proposal. If the overlay zone is approved, this is the proposal to convert or knock down or raise the existing building into a apartment building. Jeremy, what do we have? What's going to be our agenda tonight? Or
Yes, you may recall that there was a prior hearing on this, went about 3 hours. Craig Flaherty of Redness and Mead was here on behalf of the applicant. They presented information on traffic and parking and stormwater management. The town has hired 2 outside consultants at the applicant's expense. Michael Galante of Hardesty and Hanover, who reviewed traffic and parking, and Joe Canis, a professional engineer of Ty and Bond, who reviewed the stormwater management, sediment, and erosion controls. Again, a double check on the applicant's work, if you will. There were a number of issues brought up by a number of neighbors at the last hearing. In addition, since the last hearing, we've received numerous letters, emails, comments from many members of the general public. Those have been emailed out to the commission members. Those have been included in the file on this matter, and those have been posted to the town website. So the commission members, if you've sent an email before 7:30 tonight, the commission has received your letter or email, whether it be handwritten, typed, hand-delivered, emailed, whatever it is. And the applicant also is aware of those comments and concerns as well. So tonight, we're going to start off with Craig Flaherty on behalf of the applicant to summarize some outstanding items from the last hearing, give folks that may not have been at the last hearing kind of an outline on what we discussed last time, try to address some outstanding concerns, and then we'll have time for members of the public to voice their concerns.
just to double check, everybody got a copy of this one, right?
We did. The commission members, there was a letter hand delivered with each commission member's name on it. That was put in each commission member's packet. Again, if something was emailed, it was forwarded on to the commission members. So
Got it.
with that, Mr. Flaherty, you're here somewhere amongst this group of 118 folks.
I am here.
Fantastic, great. Welcome, Craig.
All right, for the record, my name is Craig Flaherty. I'm a senior engineer and principal with Redness and Mead, a land use consulting company with offices in Stamford and Wilton. Here on behalf of the applicant, Parklands Darien LLC. Our whole team is with us to respond to questions as necessary, including our architect, David Ball, landscape architect, Matt Pop, traffic engineer, Kermit Hua, project attorney is with us, Mr. Klein, applicant is here with me, and several other folks. As you stated, we had, after submitting the application on September 7th, the documents have been available both on the website and at Town Hall for public inspection. And we had our first public hearing 3 weeks ago on October 19th. We presented for more than 2 hours describing the very specific details of the application. And we got to hear from first comments from the neighbors next door on Parklands and on Fairmead. So we have a lot of new eyes watching tonight. We're not going to go through the whole 2-hour presentation again on all of those details. They are in the record. If you are interested in watching that hearing, Channel 79 keeps a catalog of all planning and zoning hearings on video demand. So you can go to Channel 79's Vimeo channel and watch the last hearing and catch up. But since there are a lot of eyes watching, I do want to kind of back up a little bit and provide an overview of what we're proposing, just so everybody has afforded some frame of reference to what we're talking about this evening. So we are proposing to replace the existing office building at 3 Parklands Drive, which is to the rear of the assisted living facility, originally constructed in 1985, the office building, with an apartment building. That apartment building will be 3 stories over a grade level garage, or a walkout garage, is buried on 3 sides, let me say it that way. These series of applications involve no variances of the zoning regulations, no exceptions to the zoning regulations, no change to the standards that we have to abide by on the zoning regulations. We are bringing forth an application that complies with the zoning regulation, period. The proposal of those 60 residential apartments includes 6 studios, 35 one-bedroom units, and 25 two-bedroom units. So it's 29 one-bedrooms, 25 two-bedrooms. I added the 6 and the 29 to get 35 one-bedroom or less, and 25 two-bedrooms. So these are smaller units. 7 of those will be set aside as inclusionary across that spectrum of units provided. So I'll share my screen now to give you an orientation of the existing site. On this orientation and on most of the plans that I'll be sharing with you this evening, north is to the right. It just fits better because it's a long site. North is to the right on the map. So you see the assisted living facility is here, the residence at Selleck's Woods. The property boundary, the zoning lot, is the entire property of 7.9 acres. That encompasses both the assisted living facility and the office building. Now, this property is a condominium, so it was split in 2, whereas Unit 1 is the residence at Selleck's Woods, owned by LCB Senior Living, and Unit 2, which the line is really right at the back wall of the assisted living facility, and then around that entire blue perimeter. Let me get my hand here; it might be a little easier to see. So the split between the units is right here. So Unit 2, which is 3 Parklands Drive, is this property right here. So you can see the parking associated with 3 Parklands Drive, the driveways, the driveway in back, the parking in back of 3 Parklands Drive, and the square shape, which is the office building. You see the northbound rest stop off to the west, I-95 off to the northwest. You have adjacent single-family residential homes on Fairmead. To the south is Dunlap Woods, that portion owned by the Darien Land Trust, and to the east is Selleck's Woods. All of the work needed to effectuate this application is occurring on 3 Parklands Drive, on private property, outside of regulated areas, outside of easement areas. If you've read somewhere that we're going to take down trees in Selleck's Woods, I've seen public comment that suggests we're going to take down hundreds of trees in Selleck's Woods. That is flat out wrong, false, 100% not true. So if you were incited to observe the proceedings tonight because of things that you might have read on social media, I will just caution you that not everything you read is true. We are doing no work in Selleck's Woods. The only thing we're proposing is a small path, and that's working with permission of the Darien Land Trust, should they provide it. We are not removing one tree in Selleck's Woods. You'll see more about our landscape plan as I go through this presentation and how we're proposing to leave this little patch of land that is the office building better than we found it. So this is the proposed site plan, again oriented in the same way. North is to the right, now replacing that office building you saw here and the drives around it and the parking lot in front is an improved condition with the proposed residential apartment building that will be 3 stories, mostly visible on the 3 sides, and then the basement walkout garage, if you will, or drive-out garage on the south side over here. There's a drop-off zone in the front. You can start seeing some of the landscaping that we're providing as a part of the application. There's a courtyard here on the east side. There's additional parking for the land trust in the back, a new entrance to the park in the back, and this drive is an emergency access drive so that fire trucks have a safe and easy turnaround around the building and have 360-degree access to all sides of the building should they need it. We'll have more on that later as well. So again, how did we get here and why are we here? One of the applications tonight is a request to what we call land, the designed office multifamily residential overlay zone on 3 Parklands, that portion of the site in the back that is 3.9 acres. And I think there's really no better way to describe what that overlay zone is than to simply read the background and purposes provided in section 461 of the zoning regulations. So the background and purposes is 4 sentences, reads as follows. The designed office multifamily residential overlay zone is an overlay zone intended to allow for the conversion or redevelopment of suburban office campuses or portions thereof in the designed office zone into multifamily units for rental or sale. In keeping with the plan of conservation and development, the overlay zone encourages the continued diversification of Darien's housing portfolio to include a range of housing types to meet a broad array of housing needs. Multifamily units offer opportunities for people for whom a single-family residence or large townhome does not meet their life stage or lifestyle needs. This includes younger people for whom an apartment may be more affordable, as well as older residents seeking to move down from a single-family home and its inherent maintenance requirements. The creation of additional dwelling units within this zone also creates more affordable, below-market rate dwelling units in accordance with the town's inclusionary zoning regulations. And those inclusionary regulations have been a part of the town zoning code for more than a decade now, I believe. That's why we're here. That's what we're doing. That's the existing regulation. Any property owner that owns property in the designed office zone can petition the Planning and Zoning Commission to apply that overlay to the designed office zone and thereby simply allow residential as one of the allowed uses. That's the change that's made by applying the designed office zone. We're not asking for any changes to setbacks, to height, to coverage, and the like. The regulation further describes the site requirements. One sentence as follows. The site shall be in the designed office zone at the time this section was adopted, it was earlier this year, and served by public water, we are, and public sanitary sewer, we are, at sufficient capacities to serve the redevelopment of the site. That has been detailed in reports and plans submitted with the application. We meet the requirements of the siting requirements of the zone. So this didn't come out of nowhere. This wasn't like the first time something like this was done in Darien. In fact, through our research, we realized that aside from the designed office zone, the parking zone, and single family zones, every other zone in town allows some form of multifamily as an option. Sometimes it's on the 2nd and 3rd floor, sometimes it's to different densities, but every other commercial and mixed use zone in town allows some form of multifamily housing. The only one you didn't have that option before the overlay was the designed office zone. But the commission approved this regulation understanding that they may want to allow residential uses on some of these designed office sites. So why was the text amendment approved? It's because it's consistent with the plan of conservation and development. In 2016, the Planning and Zoning Commission adopted their most recent plan of conservation and development. And that is a document that is intended to look forward for 10 years and describe those things that the town wants to conserve and those things that the town wants to develop, understanding that you need both to have a strong community and a successful community. We've talked before, previous hearing, in multiple documents about how this site specifically and all DO sites are indicated on the development side of that equation. They're indicated as possible development opportunity areas. So this site is consistent with the town plan of conservation and development. In addition, the plan of conservation development in several points talks about diversifying, continuing to diversify Darien's housing portfolio. And I've been accused of cherry picking small clauses. That's really just because I didn't want to read whole chapters to you, but this is not something that receives minor ado in the Plan of Conservation and Development. It is got whole sections dedicated to it, a chapter on the future land use plan, an entire section on continuing to diversify Darien's housing portfolio. And this is what it says on page 103. As of 2010 census, 91% of all dwelling units were single-family detached units. And while Darien remains a predominantly single-family and owner-occupied community, Darien's population and housing needs have changed over the years, and it is anticipated that these preferences will continue to change in the future. People have always sought housing that met their life stage and lifestyle needs, and Darien residents are no different. As the information on age composition and age-related migration in the conditions and trends section of the POCD indicates, POCD stands for Plan of Conservation and Development, Darien may not be gaining young people because they cannot find housing that is affordable and meets their needs. In addition, Darien may be losing older residents because they also cannot find housing that meets their needs. Goes on to say the Planning and Zoning Commission generally views a variety of housing options as an enhancement to Darien, and Darien should continue to encourage a broad range of housing options in appropriate locations. Darien will always have a strong presence of single-family detached houses and will always strive to retain its single-family residential character. However, Darien can, at the same time, gradually diversify its housing portfolio to meet a broader range of housing needs of present and future residents. So we are here because your regulations say we are allowed to be here. We are here because it's consistent with what your Plan of Conservation and Development, your guidance document suggests you want to do. And that POCD process took 2 or 3 years. It took public hearing sessions, public charrette sections, public hearings before it was adopted as a comprehensive document. So going back even farther, there is a general trend in town to diversify the housing portfolio, and actions that this commission has taken over the last 20 some odd years have been consistent and have continued to push in this direction. Available for inspection on the Planning and Zoning Commission website, and now a part of the record here is a March 3rd, 2020 press release from the town that talks about the successes of increasing multifamily housing, affordable housing throughout town. There's a chart attached to this press release that lists 23 different proposals that were acted on by Planning and Zoning all over town, many of which have now been constructed, a few of which we see under construction as we speak, a couple of which that haven't made it to shovel ready just yet. But this includes housing diversity at every end of the spectrum. If you want a high-end condominium townhome that you own, you've got Kensett now. If you want a rental condo in a mixed income community, you've got Avalon. If you are a senior on a fixed income, you've got the Royal. If you need affordable housing, there's the Heights at Darien. There's apartments in town now above 1020, above Grove Street, at the Mead House, condos there as well. There's efficiency apartment flats at Garden Homes over on Post Road, across from Rory's. Basically, all across the spectrum, we now have housing diversity. So people that need different things, people that want a small efficiency apartment can find one. People that want a downtown apartment can find one. People that want a big townhouse can find one. And this is different than just a stock of single family homes, which creates a homogeneous population of folks that are at their life stage where that makes sense, right? And we're here again, not because it's just some good idea Bob Gillen had to replace a struggling office building. If that was the only reason we were here, we wouldn't be here, right? We're here because this is what the town has indicated they want to do in their regulations, in their POCD, and by their past actions. I wouldn't be here unless that was the case. That is the context of why we're here. That is the history. We would not be here without it. In that press release, at the very end, our former first selectman is quoted, a couple of sentences. I am very proud of Darien's commitment to providing a wide variety of housing options for residents of all ages and means. We want young people to move to Darien to raise their families, and we want folks who are retiring to stay here and enjoy all that our community and region have to offer. We have a story of success to tell regarding housing development in Darien over the past 20 years, and I'm grateful to the Planning and Zoning Department for undertaking this analysis. We will build upon our successes as we plan for Darien's next 200 years. So the actions by the Commission are intentional and considered and are smart for creating a stronger community. So that's the background. That's why we're here. You're looking at the site plan. Now I'll touch on some of the public comment we heard, most of it prepared based on the comments we heard at the last public hearing, October 19th, and some of the emails received for the file since that time. I'm not going to go over in detail the response package that we generated. That's on the record. There's a November 3rd, 2021 letter from our office where we set about to try to answer 40 different questions and comments received. Our goal is to simply take every question and comment and give it the best, clearest, most accurate answer we can, and that's what we did in this document. I'm not going to read through it, but I might reference it as I talk about things that are generally in 4 categories. As we go through a lot of the neighbor comments, we can kind of put them, I'd say most of them, 90% or more of them, in 4 categories. The first category is concerns about traffic and safety, pedestrian safety, emergency services access, and activity, and parking, right? So that's kind of the traffic and parking umbrella. A lot of folks concerned about traffic on Old Kings Highway North. A lot of folks concerned that this might create more traffic. So this development is replacing a 35,000 square foot office building was a 67,000 square foot residential apartment building. The reality is the residential apartment building in our peak hours, our Monday commuting hours, and our evening commuting hours generates less traffic than an office building, period. There is some shift of traffic because you have people departing and arriving at different times now, but now they're outside of those critical peak hours. We are seeing a small increase in trips, for instance, in a Saturday morning peak hour. But ultimately, the traffic engineer that we hired, Kermit Hua, who has a detailed traffic analysis on the record submitted with the application, has determined that levels of service at Old Kings Highway North and Parklands Drive will not change and will not be affected by this proposed application because it is replacing an approved use in that office building. He also stood out there for 6 hours. In addition to counting the traffic, he counted the pedestrians. And over that 6-hour period, he counted 5 pedestrians, different times, the morning peak hour, the evening peak hour, the Saturday peak hour, and determined that pedestrian activity at that intersection was negligible. We are proposing to fully connect the sidewalk at the intersection of Parklands Drive and Old Kings Highway North to the apartment building in the back of the site. There will be a continuous sidewalk now from Old Kings Highway all the way to the open space, actually. This is something that not every road in Darien has, right? There's tons of road in town that don't have sidewalks. We will have a sidewalk. That is the action needed to take to keep pedestrians safe. But at the end of the day, you don't have to believe our traffic consultant, because the town knows that traffic is a common concern for folks when they hear about new development. And so the town generally has a policy on any substantial application to go out and hire their own traffic consultant that works for the commission for the interests of the town. That traffic consultant is Hardesty in Hanover. Mike Galante is on the call tonight if the commission has any questions for him. But ultimately, what Mr. Galante found, and these are his quotes, was one, we agree with the layout, provision for parking, and the sidewalk connection to the side of the assisted living building, and provision for the emergency access drive to be located to the east of the residential building. Levels of service will be maintained during all 3 peak hours. Proposed residential development will not have a significant impact to the study area, intersection, or surrounding roadway. That is the finding of the second traffic consultant working for the commission after he read our traffic consultant's report and did some of their own analyses to support and allow them to make that opinion. In addition, we looked at traffic accident records. There's an online forum for that. Most recent data harvested was between 2017 and 2019, extended from Parklands Drive, the intersection at Old Kings Highway North, down to East Lane, including the intersection at Fairmead. There were no accidents over the 3-year period for which data was available from 2017 and 2019. So there's no record of a particular, we look at this because we want to see if there's a trend that needs improvement. Hardesty in Hanover did recommend one change, and that was at the end of Parklands Drive. So this exhibit shows the front of Parklands Drive. Here at the bottom right is the intersection of Old Kings Highway North and Parklands Drive. And they noted that the existing stop bar is set back very far from the edge of traveled way of Old Kings Highway North. And they suggested it be moved forward to improve the available site distances. So we have provided this exhibit to the local traffic authority, the police commission, and they have responded that the movement of the stop bar is acceptable to them. That email was to Jeremy Ginsburg from Captain Shredders today. Based on observations and public testimony from Ms. Mafucci, who lives here at 2 Parklands Drive, she was concerned about cars not obeying the center of Parklands Drive and swinging out a little far at the intersection. And similarly, because this is an old cul-de-sac here at the end of Parklands Drive, cars were not really obeying the center line, and she was concerned about the safety of that. So we've proposed a yellow line to better cue drivers to stay within their lanes along that road. Similarly, that has been looked at by the local traffic authority, who has approved that improvement as well. So the sidewalk that comes from Old Kings Highway North, you see here in the aerial on the north side of Parklands Drive, does get to a point when it gets on site where it crosses. So the traffic coming in and out of the site does have a crosswalk at that location. So we are proposing to augment that crosswalk. Right now, it's just simple paint on the ground to make it a safer condition and a more obvious condition, and a condition that requires cars to slow as they drive by. We're going to elevate the crosswalk, create a raised table crosswalk, and we're going to put additional striping and signage there, right? So the crosswalk signs indicating where the crosswalk is, and additional public safety striping on the ground, and the raised crosswalk. So these are improvements we're making based on a traffic consultant's review, based on some public testimony we heard, to try to improve safety along this stretch. But ultimately, this has been looked at, and this does come up in your standards of review, both under the site plan review regulations and the special permit regulations. Traffic is mentioned, that it needs to be looked at with care, and it's a part of your consideration of approval. And we believe we've met that bar. In fact, I'm not really sure what else we could do to meet that bar, as well documented by the record and the peer review work that was done. Similarly, the application is forwarded to the fire marshal for review, who comments on the adequacy of the site plan and comments on things related to fire protection and their ability to serve the building. He had a number of comments. He had 8 different comments. We met Bob Bush out in the field. We went over all of his comments, and we can address all of his comments. First was where the fire hydrants were going to be located. There's one at the northwest corner of the building. He asked for an additional one around the back of the building so that he can more easily get to a fire hydrant at that location as well. He asked for confirmation from Aquarian that the fire service line is adequate to serve the proposal. We're, of course, going to make that confirmation with Aquarian before this gets built. That's in a dedicated 6-inch service line just for the fire hydrants and fire sprinkler for the building. He asked that the driveway around the building be suitable to support fire apparatus. It is. Horizontal geometry has also been designed to support fire apparatus. Today, you do not have 360-degree access around the office building, but you will have 360-degree access around the apartment building. He asked for fire lanes to be striped from this northwest corner all the way around to the garage. So there'll be signs that indicate no parking. It's a fire lane. They'll be striped on the ground. And that's to avoid people parking there so that when fire services comes to serve the building, they're not in the way. Standpipes for connection into the system will be provided in each stairwell. The entire building will be sprinklered. The garage will have an exhaust system, carbon monoxide warning system, and a fire protection system. And of course, there will be key boxes for department access. Those were all of his comments, and those are all comments that we can comply with. So the second area of comment that we hear or read in some of the public testimony is it's too big, it's too tall, it's too dense, it's too close to the property line. That's the general nature of comments. And there are a number of questions in the response package that address our response to this. The first is a series of provided calculations. Again, we're not asking for any change in the regulations in the underlying zone. So the building coverage standard we're complying with is the building coverage standard in the underlying zone. There was a suggestion that we should only calculate it based on the 3.9 acre parcel, not the whole 7.9 acre parcel. There was a suggestion that we net out any land covered by water. This colored area you see is the 3.9 acre parcel. Blue, of course, is the water. Green is where vegetation will be growing. Gray is surface hardscape, and the tan is the proposed building. There was a suggestion that we should net out the conservation easement area from the 3.9 acre parcel when making this calculation. No matter how we do this calculation, and the results are provided on this exhibit, Exhibit C, Unit 2 coverage, we comply with the coverage standards. In fact, by the zoning regulations, we're allowed to have up to 80% of the site covered with hardscape. We are proposing to have 46% of the site covered with hardscape, so we have much more open space than you would have in other DO zones without the protections of these conservation easements. Beyond that, there was a question about setbacks. How close is this building to the surrounding property boundaries? So we provided this exhibit. The standard in the zone is that the building be set back 50 feet from residential property. Our building is set back 155 feet from the closest point of the closest residential lot. That's this dimension right here. This is the corner of the building. This is the extreme point of 23 Fairmead. That's 155 feet. It's 3 times the distance allowed in the zone, right? The zone says 50 feet. We're providing over 150 feet. If you're in a single family residential zone, you would only need to provide 40 feet. So we exceed the setbacks from the surrounding zone. The second part of this is the building is too high. So right now, the building is proposed to meet a zoning height of 35 feet. That is only 5 more feet than it is allowed in any single family residential zone anywhere in town. And all of the, lost my thought there for a second. All of the structures in town, all of the buildings in town, the building height is calculated exactly the same way. And that's shown in section back here from someone. So if you can find that, Fred. This is how height is calculated in the town of Darien. This is a version of section 225 from the regulations. So if you have a pitched roof, which many houses do, you're measuring to the middle of the roof, not to the top of the roof. If you have a walkout basement or portions of your perimeter of your home where your basement is exposed, you're not measuring from the first floor, you're measuring from the average grade. So the average grade between the high points around the house and the average grade between the low points around the house. So even though a house like this would comply with a zoning height of 30 feet indicated here, its apparent height could be 40 feet or more if you were measuring it from the ridge to the bottom. So yes, apparent height as you walk around a building is sometimes taller than the zoning height. And this is true for every building in town, and every building in town is measured the same way. This is the cross section of the Parklands building, showing how we meet the 35 feet from the flat of the roof to the average grade. There is an architectural screen around the perimeter of the roof, screening mechanical units. And you don't have to count those architectural screens when you're screening mechanical units, which is the same, what I want to say, it's the same idea as not counting to the ridge for a slope roof building. But this is how we're complying with the zone, but we're showing you what the apparent height is on 3 sides of the building where the garage is not visible, which is 40 feet. And we're showing you the apparent height on the one side, the south side of the building, where the garage is visible, which is 50 feet. So the last point I'll make about the idea of, is this too big? Is it out of character with the neighborhood? Does it not fit in? I think is to note that we have a favorable review from the Architectural Review Board. We had 2 meetings with them. They made several comments on the design. The design was modified, and they provided those favorable comments on the 26th, I think, 26th. But the purpose of the Architectural Review Board is outlined in the town ordinance. And it's section 5483C of the town ordinance. It says, the purpose of the Architectural Review Board is to provide guidance in preserving and improving the appearance and beauty of the community, thereby achieving site plans and architectural design of buildings and other structures and improvements that are of such character as to harmonize with the neighborhood and surrounding uses, as well as protecting the town's architectural heritage and furthering in the preservation of property values. That's their purpose. That's the nature of the comments they provided, and they've given us a favorable review, asking for some adjustments to the south side of the building that faces the park. But those did not rise to the need to go back to the commission, and they requested staff handle that. We've also heard comments that this is going to be the densest project in town. That is also not true. We've provided analysis of that in our responses. We're not nearly the densest project in town. And these multifamily projects are on all across town, not just in this neighborhood. So we've heard comment on school kids. I've seen comment that we're going to have 100 school kids, that we're going to have 60 school kids, that it's going to overwhelm Tokenique School, et cetera, et cetera. These are not accurate numbers. They're not intuitively accurate, and they're not accurate based on the research that we did. We looked at 5 different sources. We included the citations to those sources in our response. At the end of the day, as I've been saying in prior testimony, there may be a handful of kids in 3 Parklands Drive. Perhaps 4 to 8 is what the research that we did indicated. Now, maybe there is a Darien factor to that, where people want to move to town so their kids can get in our excellent school systems, and maybe it'll be more than 4 to 8. But that's what the data shows. I have kind of a different reaction to this than many people have. This does not scare me. If someone is excited to move to town to get their kids in the Darien public school system, I simply say, welcome. We have great schools. They will get a great education. These are 35 studio and 1-bedroom apartments and 25 2-bedroom apartments in a mid-rise flat style building. These types of units and types of projects simply don't attract a lot of households with school kids. The next nature of the next comments really revolves around environmental compatibility and the Celix Woods and Dunlap Woods, and what the impact of this will be on Celix Woods and Dunlap Woods. Again, there is no work proposed in the woods. Not one tree in the woods will be removed. We are suggesting that we relocate the entrance to the woods. So I'll show you some of these improvements. I'll zoom in on this a little bit. The first thing is that the parking lot in the back largely drains to the woods through a paved leak-off right next to the existing entrance, the wood steps that step down into the woods. That is not a great situation. We don't want untreated water flowing off of a parking lot and into an open space. That will be eliminated. There'll be a catch basin placed there, a curb placed there. That water will go through a deep sump catch basin, an oil grit separator, and an infiltration system before discharging from the site along an existing pipe on 3 Parklands property to an existing discharge down by the pond, by Dunlap Lake. The other improvements that we're making are shifting the entrance from this location, right on the apex of this sharp curve, to this location at the end. That was done intentionally. We thought it wasn't a great idea to have that location where people might be congregating around a sharp turn, where people were still trying to get in and out of a garage. So we put it to the end of the parking lot so that any congregation here happens out of the way of this traffic coming around the turn and getting into and out of the garage. Right now, the only spaces that the public has deeded rights to are the 2 to the west of the entrance. So right now, there's only 2 public parking spaces for the open space. We're proposing all 11 of these parking spaces on the back be exclusive use for the public accessing the open space. There'll be a new celebrated entrance to the park with the pergola designed by the architect to highlight its importance. And that's the area where we're proposing the new walk into the trail system. And that would only be done with the Darien Land Trust approval. I'll point out that we've been in continual conversation with the Darien Land Trust about how these improvements would work. They've been very receptive to those conversations, and we expect that cooperation to continue as the plan is effectuated. But the other thing that's in the record is an email from the chairman of the Parks and Rec Commission. This is for the town of Darien, the part of Celix Woods that's owned by the town of Darien. Lorena Bora, chair, recounts a meeting of September 22nd of the Parks and Recreation Commission with the applicant, and describing that meeting as very productive and positive, and that the commission was very pleased with the proposal, and the sense of the meeting is that this project will be a net positive to the park. And those minutes are in the record from their meeting on September 22nd. So I think with that, I've given you the overview of how we got here, exactly what is proposed, and response to the nature of most of the public comments we've heard to date. So, Mr. Chairman, I'll kick it back to you. Any questions the commissioners might have?
Thank you, Craig. Appreciate that. Your response packet with the 40 answers to the 40 questions was very detailed in all your exhibits. Thank you. All right, I've got a couple questions. The big question that I had was the square footage, and we said the building's going from, I think, 35,000 to 67,000. Is that right? Something like that?
Yeah, that's correct. The footprint increase is smaller because it's 3 stories versus 2 stories. And just as a reference, 67,000 is half the size of the assisted living facility.
Okay, and with regards to square foot, that 67,000, and I want to get technical with you, is that net rentable according to the architect for the apartments, or is that gross building area?
That's outside walls of all floors of the 3 top floors.
Okay, so that's gross building and it excludes the lower level basement.
That's correct.
And your previous quote saying that the building was 30, I think you said 35,000 feet, I wrote it down. That also excluded the parking garage too, right?
Yeah, that's correct. That's the 2 office floors of the building, gross floor area from the outside wall.
Right, so we're comparing apples to apples. Good, thank you, I appreciate that. That was important to me. What else? And the height of the building, we went over that. So based upon your exhibit, which is, I don't know, it's exhibit D, sheet 2, the height to the top of the architectural detail is 40 feet. But the way Darien measures it, it's 35 feet, right?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay, and then your other number that you have on here is basement, first floor, second floor, third floor. You added 10 feet for the basement, but that's below grade, correct?
On 3 sides of the building, about 80% of the building is below grade and not visible. It starts to become apparent on the back of the building that faces Dunlap Woods, so that you can get in the garage.
Dunlap Woods, right. It doesn't face.
That faces south.
Yeah.
Yep.
It doesn't face towards Fairmead Road. It faces towards the truck stop.
Yeah, the east face of the building, which is the face that faces Fairmead, is the garage is fully concealed with earth and landscaping.
So if you were standing, if you're on the Fairmead side, if you're on that driveway at the backside, where the fire lane is, it's 40 feet on that side to the peak.
Yeah, it starts from fully exposed building here. There's a ramp up, and by about here, it's fully.
Your screen's not up. Your screen's not up, but I'm staring at it.
You don't know what about here means, right? So it's fully exposed on the south side, but as you come around the corner, the grade starts building up, and by the time you get to this corner, it's fully buried with earth and landscaping.
Got it. Okay. So the side that where the bushes are, the trees are on the top of your page there, that's the side where it's going to be unburied.
This side here, the back where the parking is, that's where the in and out to the underground garage is, and so that's the most exposed side of the building.
And that's the same condition it is today, because that parking garage entrance is not moving.
Exactly. You've got basically the walkout basement version of the garage there today.
Perfect. Okay. Gotcha. Craig detailed most of my questions on what I would have asked. So let's go around the horn with commissioners on this one. I'm going to start with Jim Rand first. Jim, do you have any questions for Craig at this point?
No, I'd just like to, if you'll forgive me, reiterate my concern the last time, and that is when you're sitting at the stop line exiting Parklands, there is seems to me, always traffic coming from the post road over the bridge. And you don't know whether that traffic is going to turn onto the ramp of the thruway or continue down Old Kings Highway. I don't doubt that what Craig says is true. It's inconceivable to me that there's never been an accident at that intersection, because I've had a couple of close calls, more than one in the 5 years my office was in 3 Parklands. So if there is something that the town's traffic people can do to slow down the people coming over the bridge, or otherwise make them aware that there's traffic entering or maybe entering from the right as once they get over the bridge, I think it'd be helpful. Other than that, I have no further comments.
Okay, thanks, Jim. Jeremy, you want to address that real quick? Can everyone hear Jeremy and Fred when he
Yeah.
speaks?
So this is
Yes.
Jeremy Ginsburg, Planning and Zoning. After the last public hearing, we were asked to send, in response to Mr. Rand's question, we sent this to Captain Treaders over at the Legal Traffic Authority, the police department. I met with him out in the field about a stripe down the middle of the road as Ms. Mafucci to address her issue, as well as the stop bar, stop sign issue. He noted that it was on the police commission agenda for November 4th, and the police commission did approve the stop bar moving and the double yellow. He said the only concern is if the stop bar will be in a path of a new sidewalk that DPW is installing. So they'll have to coordinate that if there does get to be a new sidewalk. DPW is considering that possibility, going from, say, East Lane, if you will, some kind of possibly a crosswalk across the street, and then a sidewalk going, I'll call it westward from that point to this stop sign, and then connecting to the new sidewalk that was built a few years ago, with a crosswalk going across Parklands Drive.
Yeah.
So the long answer to Mr. Rand's question is yes, the Legal Traffic Authority did approve the moving of that stop bar.
Okay, thank you.
Sure thing.
Great. George, Jeff Ball, you have any questions at this point, sir? Where's Jeff Ball? We lost Jeff Ball? Okay,
No, I'm here. Sorry.
it's okay. Any
I'm good
questions
right
at
now.
this point?
No, I'm good. Thank you very much.
Great. George Riley, sir, you have any questions at this point?
I think at the moment I'm most curious about the number of school-age children that may be in this development. And I was looking at the response document that Craig and company have provided. So there are going to be 25 two-bedroom units. And there were 70, 90, over 100 of them, I guess, more than one bedroom at Avalon. And Avalon apparently has 92 students. So that's 4 times. I know they're saying maybe 7 or 8 students will result from this development, and I'm just leery of that. Particularly as I think back on Avalon, I think the estimate of the number of students was much lower than 92. And I see the mathematics that go behind that, and yet I'm still a little skeptical. But I don't know, what would be my question? I guess I can only say, really? Really? Only 7 out of
Clearly
5 years?
difficult to predict with accuracy, and we will admit that. These are averages. We did our best to come up with as many sources as we could to give you the best educated guess. But even if it's double what I suggested, it's not of a level that is going to negatively impact the school system one kid per grade being added into the system. We did go through a source validation exercise at the end of that Exhibit F that you might be looking at. And we took what we felt was the most robust data set, the Source 5 data set, and we applied that to Avalon because we know the number of school kids there, just to see what the calculation showed us. And the calculation for that data set predicted 90 school-age children at Avalon because it's low-rise, not mid-rise, because there are 3-bedroom units at Avalon, more 2-bedroom units at Avalon, because there's more affordable at Avalon, all more affordable units at Avalon. All these things skew for greater school kids. But the model projected 90. The 4-year running average for school kids at Avalon Darien is 92. So that gave us some comfort that the data set was accurate as applied to Darien, Connecticut.
Fair enough. I appreciate that. Yeah.
The other item that I would also add, thank you, George. What I would also add is remember, we have 6 studios inside this development, and studio apartments generally produce 0 kids. I don't know any kid that lives with someone in a studio.
And I
Personally.
was thinking the same of 1-bedroom units. Probably no kids there.
Right. And you would have a propensity of students in 3-bedroom units, and in this building has got none.
Right.
Okay. You good for now, George?
Yeah, that's fine. Thank you.
Okay. Then I would move on to Adam. Adam, you're up to speed on this, right, sir?
Yes, I am. My only question as it relates to sort of the school kids as well, my understanding from the last meeting was that no buses will be going into this premise, right? Because they can't do a turnaround, like buses don't do U-turns. So where will the buses be picking the kids up from? These, I agree with George. I mean, 4 to 7 seems slightly on the low side, but where will these kids, will they presumably be picked up on the what is this, the south corner of Old Kings Highway?
Yeah, so the policy throughout town, after my conversation with the transportation director for the Darien Public School Systems, the policy throughout town is to not have school buses go down dead-end roads. And they don't, right? Because there were too many instances of a car parked here or that way, or cul-de-sac not big enough, and really just the time it takes for buses to go up and down roads, right? So the policy of the town is to stay on the collector and arterial streets and meet at the intersections of these dead-end roads. So the location of this bus stop would be at the intersection of Parklands and Old Kings Highway if there were, in fact, children in the school system that needed the bus.
Is there any discussion of putting a signage or something like children or bus stop here? If young kids going to Tokenique, they're going to be under 5th grade. Old Kings Highway is a main road to get to 95. There's some safety concerns about a bunch of kids standing on that corner potentially.
We're comfortable following any lead that the Darien Public School System has, any lead that you want to provide. This is no different than what occurs at Fairmead, what occurs at Circle Road, what occurs at any of these roads along Old Kings Highway North. We have a lot of busy roads in town. We got 2 schools on Mansfield Avenue. We got a school on Hoyt Street. We got a school on the Post Road. We've got a school on Tokenique Road. These are all busy streets. They have sidewalks, and kids walk down the sidewalks and get to school safely every day.
Okay. Yeah, other than that, I have no further questions.
Great, thanks a lot. Remember, like a lot of those, there's no signage outside of Avalon where the school kids are. There's also no signage outside of the Heights, which is on Norton Avenue for bus stops. There's no even bus stop. The only time we did put a spot for a bus stop was at Kensett. If you ever go up to Kensett, there is a gazebo at the front of Kensett, and that's got its own parking spots. Okay, that's all the commissioners. So what I'd like to do is open it up to the public again for some questions on it. It's now 9:10. The people that I would like to see if they're here and to hear from, I know there's a lot of people. I see 114 people. Is a John O'Brien or a Sandra Conway here this evening? I think they're from either Dunlap Woods or Selleck Woods or something like
No,
that.
Mr. O'Brien. But Ms.
Conway? Okay,
Yeah.
fantastic. Welcome to the Planning and Zoning Commission meeting.
Thank you.
Go right ahead if you'd like to speak. I didn't mean to put you on the spot, but I put you on the spot.
No, that's fine. Is it possible for me to do a screen share?
Sure.
Okay, let's see if I can do it.
And Ms. O'Connor, can you just say for the record
Ms.
where you,
Conway.
Ms. Conway, where you live and what your affiliation in town is?
Sure, I live on 21 Fairmead Road.
Okay.
So I know Craig spoke in detail about this 2016 Plan of Conservation and Development. And I just wanted to take a look at that. I'd like to address the application for 3 Parklands Drive and the inconsistencies with the town's Plan of Conservation and Development during this special permit request, which I believe that's what this is. So basically, from what I understand, this is the framework for consistent decision-making and a requirement to move forward with this application. Am I correct in that?
Yeah, first you have to get the overlay zone approved. Once you get the overlay zone approved, if it gets approved, then you apply for a special permit. But if
Okay.
you don't get the first overlay, you don't, it's basically game over.
So the overlay was approved, right? The direct overlay, as we see on the screen right now.
No, the overlay zone was created.
Okay,
It has not been cited on this property yet.
right. So I know that during this approval, that several passages from the development portion of that Plan of Conservation and Development, which focuses on diversification of housing portfolio and economic development, which is applicable. But honestly, that is where the POCD consistency ends for 3 Parklands. The 3 Parklands property in the overlay is not consistent with the rest of the properties because it is surrounded by R1 density, one of the lightest shaded area in that legend above, and protected designated open space, which is shaded in green. This is not consistent with the POCD. Just another highlighted area. Let's see if I can go to here. Just another view of all the properties in the DOMR shaded in pink. All are on busy streets and are surrounded by mid to high density. Again, 3 Parklands does not fit in the requirements cited in the town's Plan of Conservation and Development. Page 98 of the Plan of Conservation and Development, strategies number 2, maintain higher densities near downtown Darien and Norotan Heights business districts and reduce density as distance from these centers increase. 3 Parklands is neither near downtown nor Norotan Heights business district. The applicant would counter that some people want an option for a more private setting, but that is not a pillar in the town's framework. Number 4, careful monitoring near residential areas to minimize impact of residential neighborhoods. Residents have consistently shown the impact of the neighborhood after the applicant's first project. This time, the impact is set on not only the low density neighborhood, but now the town's protected designated open space, which is known as Selleck Woods. Page 106, number 4, seek to locate higher density housing near the train station. This property is 1.3 miles from the train station and not on a direct bus route. It's about a half-mile walk to a bus. The applicant states that many people will like the proximity to I-95, and I know Mr. Flaherty brought up the traffic study. The Parklands study, which he failed to mention, received an F in wait time on Parklands to even get on the highway. Once again, 3 Parklands is inconsistent with the Plan of Conservation and Development. The POCD recommends preserving dedicated open spaces and even include a picture of Selleck Woods on the cover of Section 5. I think we can all agree that expanding the overall footprint of the existing building does not preserve this open space. The project does not fit the criteria and therefore inconsistent with the POCD. Why would we allow this developer to use commercial height and scale on this property? Page 52. Number 2, continue to implement appropriate tools to preserve and maintain open space. This housing project does not fit the criteria. If anything, we should be exploring the action steps. In number 3, the applicant should be increasing the open space as part of their building plan. They did offer up 2%, only to take advantage of a loophole so they could add an additional 1% in their building size.
Huh.
Page 62 identifies Parklands, Dunlap Woods, and the surrounding neighborhood as a red zone for the town and deemed very slow infiltration rates. As the POCR states, increased flooding can be expected in these areas due to the inability of the soil to infiltrate rainwater as fast as it falls. Why would we agree to build a bigger and taller development that adds impervious surfaces, causing more runoff? The 3 Parklands project is inconsistent with the POCD. The applicant's first project, residents at Selleck Woods, has already provided proof that the existing flood studies used to get approval for the project fell short and was detrimental to residents, as proven in the pictures and testimonies. Why would we trust another flood report from the same group? Page 64. Now that we have identified Parklands and the surrounding area as floodplain area, number 1, manage water quantity and runoff to maintain the water cycle and reduce the impacts of flooding. And number 2, continue to protect floodplain areas. Number 5, support the purchase of properties in floodplain areas. I love this idea. I believe some people from LCB are on the call too. I would love people from Darien and LCB to get together, purchase this property, and let's do something correct for the town. Let's put a senior center for those seniors that are down and living. Let's do some people for the developmental people now housed on East Lane. Let's do a science center on the Selleck Woods for the kids of Darien, rather than doing a multi-family housing project. Number 6, continue to implement low impact development practices to help manage water quantity issues. I think we can all agree this high density apartment project does not protect the floodplain area and is definitely not low impact development. Again, this project does not fit the criteria and therefore inconsistent with the town's POCD. Just everybody take a look at this image. I know Mr. Flaherty showed his side, and I just want you to see the original size. They are very good in their language and trying to convince us that nothing's going to change. And it happened exactly, 3 or 4 years ago when they built the 132,000 square foot residence of Selleck Woods. They actually convinced the neighbors that this was going to actually benefit them and make our neighborhood look good. Now, if you drive down Fairmead Road, you will see an enormous building enveloping the entire street, which lost its entire character. And I am speaking up because this happened to Selleck Woods. Page 66, conservation strategies. Number 1, continue to protect and enhance wetlands and watercourses. Giving Parklands the opportunity to use commercial heights and scale on 3 parklands does not protect and enhance the 7 distinct ecosystems, local wildlife, critical wetlands, and bird sanctuary in Selleck Woods. 3 parklands is not consistent with this portion of the POCD. I would also ask what type of donations or promises were made to the people hired to protect this nature preserve. Why is residents reading through drainage reports? Why am I reading through drainage reports in concern with protecting Selleck Woods, while those in town gave the project a thumbs up before any reports were provided? Something does not add up here. The next portion of this presentation will be covered by my husband, Tom Conway, and focuses on some key concerns with the Parklands application.
Great, thank you, Mrs. Conway. Appreciate that. I guess your husband wants to speak next?
Yeah, I'm gonna
Yeah.
finish this. I'm gonna get in trouble for not sitting next to her, but anyway, I'm Tom Conway, 21 Fairmead Road.
Okay.
So Sandra has that slide up about flooding. You see some pictures there. That's our yard, you know, and it gets like that on some heavy rains. That's from the conservation easement behind the LCB residence. So you can produce any study you want, but I'll show you these slides. Some of that Selleck Woods. The studies are severely flawed. Since that video was submitted, there was a video submitted back in April. I've never heard from anybody. The applicant has never approached me. Nobody has ever talked to me about remedying that situation. And at the first meeting that the applicant held, I asked Craig, or Mr. Flaherty, about an environmental impact study, and he told me that was not required. I find that hard to believe, that when you're next to a nature preserve or a sensitive area, you're not required to do an impact study, an environmental impact study. Anyway, so we do these meetings, we do these forums, and nothing is, it's just refuting any claims that the neighbors have. One of the causes, and we're gonna, you know, and this is important, one of the causes of the flooding on my end and on Fairmead Road is the elevation. The elevation used to be 82 feet down to the parking lot was 79 feet, and the water would run that way. Now it comes back from an 85-foot, the average that is accepted, and it runs down to Fairmead Road through my home. So anyway, as you now know, and I didn't learn this until we started reading through this, we live in a red zone, this extremely low water infiltration rate, which the applicant has never once mentioned or addressed. And as a poor estimate of his water runoff calculations on the last project, you know, I've had to try to mitigate this with extra sump pumps. I put 2 pumps outside during a rainstorm. And so how can I accept the accuracy of this drainage report that he's doing for this project and not think that it's going to have a negative impact on the, what are we calling it, with the side towards Fairmead Road, towards Selleck, and then Dunlop Woods. Now, and I think you asked, Chairman asked about height. We talk about height, you throw out the number 35 feet, and you know, it's actually like a 52 foot structure. One of the slide that went up tonight was a little different. When you think of the elevation, I mean, you have to consider the fact that all the neighboring properties on Fairmead Road are at a 65 foot elevation or lower. And this building is going to start at 66 feet and go to a 52 foot elevation, which means it's going to be twice the height of any building on Fairmead Road. And so it's not, when you say the side of Fairmead Road, when we look at it, we're going to see that 3rd floor. We're going to see that roof. It's going to block sunlight for probably 2 to 4 hours, depending on the season, and eliminating a lot of natural light. It's an excessive height. It's not 35 feet from the ground. It's 35, it's 52 feet from the 65-foot elevation that we're on. And then, you know, we talked about traffic, and Mr. Rand has experienced it. Near misses are a common experience at the corner of Parklands. And to quote Mr. Galante, the formula they use for those traffic estimates are used unless local conditions prove otherwise. That was his statement, and that is definitely true on Old Kings Highway. The traffic study doesn't include the way, the close proximity of all these intersections. You have Fairmead Road, Parklands Road, which are very close to each other. You have East Lane coming from the other way. At times, Old Kings Highway can be like a 4-lane highway, depending on who's turning onto the highway and who's trying to pass. It doesn't include the distance there. And as was mentioned earlier, it doesn't mention there's a bus, school buses stop in between Parklands and Fairmead Road 6 times a day. The other thing it doesn't account for, and which is a common thing in Darien, there are 7 kids on Fairmead Road that are in their first year of driving. And that number is probably duplicated all the way down Old Kings Highway. And that number is duplicated all the way up Middlesex and all over Darien. And that's something a traffic study that maybe would only be unique to Darien would show you, but that's the truth here. And the other thing it doesn't consider is the peak traffic time in Darien for anybody who's had raised kids here is 4 to 8. From 4 to 8 for the last 10 years, I've been going to Darien Ice Rink, Twin Rinks, McGuan Baseball Field, the YMCA. That's all between 4 and 8. And that's when the people are cutting through Darien to come from the Merritt or wherever else they come through to avoid 95 traffic and down Old Kings Highway. It's a dangerous intersection. There is no 2 ways about it. It's a dangerous intersection. Something, and just telling me you're going to move a white line to mitigate the traffic it's kind of insulting. It's like something has to be done there. Like, tell me you're going to do something. Don't hand us a report, you know, addressing all these issues, saying, hey, you know, we found these numbers or this number or that number. You know, tell us you're going to do something. You know, I mean, like, anyway, so the only solution to, I think, that intersection is a light. And the only way we would get a light, the only way we would be guaranteed some of these things, because the applicant is going to sell this project and then we'll have no recourse. So a bond needs to be put in place if any aspect of this project goes through, so that there's money for a traffic light. There's money for adjusting flaws in the drainage report. And you know what? My mouth is getting dry, which probably means I spoke too long. And thank you, Chairman, for allowing me to speak.
You're more than welcome, sir. Thank you very much for your time. Just to make sure that we're all on the same page, is there's a drainage report that's put in by the applicant. There's traffic studies that are put in by the applicant. They're reviewed by outside third parties. That reviews the drainage study and the flooding study. And there's an outside third party that reviews the traffic study. We also have in-house people that look at drainage studies, which is Darren Ostafine, who's an engineer, right? He's an engineer, works for the town. So that's a third set of eyes. And we also talk local traffic authority, or the legal traffic authority relative to traffic too. So these projects take a long time to get done. No one's trying to rush anything. You know, you're going back to 2016. That's 5 years ago. We've been thinking about this stuff. So nothing gets done fast. Your idea of a traffic light at that intersection or somewhere along that street, that's the first time I ever heard of it in my 8 years of being on the Planning and Zoning Commission. But that's fine. The next person is going to speak to somebody else wants to speak next.
I thought it was Mr. O'Brien, but he may have left the meeting.
Is there a James John O'Brien here?
No. Okay.
No?
Take the next
Okay.
person, huh?
Can I ask for a favor? There's some elderly people on this call from Select Engagements. If they could talk first, just if you would give them opportunity first.
That'd be fantastic. My wife takes care of elderly people. They gotta go to bed, they want to talk, that's fine. I did receive a letter in the mail from the residents of Selleck Woods. And they're the members of the Resident Council Committee at the residents of Selleck Woods, signed by Elizabeth O'Mara, Sharon Roberts, Pat Johnson, Ann Rogers, and William Miller. If anybody from Selleck Woods residents would like to speak, please go right ahead.
Thank you.
Just identify yourself, wave so we can find you, and welcome. Thank you for coming.
Wave at this. This is the camera here.
Oh.
Okay, you see?
Do you see me?
Can you see us and hear us?
Yeah, you have a whole bunch of people in a room. Is that right?
Okay, very good.
Right.
This is Beth O'Mara.
So I was on the first of that letter that you received, but everyone on that letter is here now.
Thank you.
A small story, because coming after that incredible presentation that we just heard, feels like a small story, but it's important. Years ago, a couple of years ago in my life, my husband became disabled and I had a heart attack. And we were faced with having to make a big decision and find ourselves in a safer, more secure place. So we sold our home, we cobbled our savings, and we came here to Selleck Woods. And now we are faced with a dramatic change that has a profoundly negative effect, not just in our lives, but on all of the 74 residents who live here. Some of them are vulnerable, they're anxious. They can't articulate what they're thinking as quickly, but they're all very upset about this. The traffic, and starting with the construction, the traffic, the noise, the dirt. Many of these residents need to sleep during the day. That's constant. This will go on for months and months. And then when it's done, we're faced with additional traffic, additional noise from another 120 people at least. And I go with everyone. I cannot improve on everyone's comments about the traffic. I am able to leave, and even when it's 9 or 9:30, I sit at the end of Parklands Drive, and people race over that bridge, trying to get on 95, and they race up the other way. And I can't imagine that any of this that the planner said will do any good for this group. Thank you.
Next.
Yes.
Meg.
No, I'm Meg Wynn, and I'm just one of the over 90 members here. And Selleck Woods has become our home. But what I'm concerned about is being locked in, away from any entrance or exit because of the construction. And the children that love to go to your woods come from Darien, our grandchildren go there into the woods, and the woods you could never replace. And I would like to see that everyone knows that if this construction goes through, most of us are going to have to leave this building. We don't want to, but for our safety, we would like to get out of it. And you rob a lot of your Darien residents of the desire of Selleck Woods. The animals still come around, eat our flowers and everything else, but that's going to change. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Can you just tell me your name again? I missed it for the record. I apologize.
Meg Wynn.
Meg Wynn.
Stanford.
Thank you, ma'am. Is there another person there, sir?
Yes.
My name is
Sir,
Sharon.
what was your name, sir?
Who me speaking in the background, or the lady about to speak? Oh, my
No,
name is
you.
Bob. I'm just running the meeting from here.
You're Bob. What's your last name?
King, K-I-N-G.
Got it. Thanks, Bob. Are you a resident too?
No, I'm just running the meeting for these guys.
Thank you.
Yep.
Who do we have
Yep.
next?
Go ahead.
I am right here, Sharon Robbins.
Sharon Roberts, yep, welcome.
Thank you. Welcome too. I listened to Craig speak about the different aspects of living in Darien. Talked about all levels of incomes. He talked about diversity. Diversity he mentioned so many times. He didn't mention senior living situations such as we have. We want a quality of life, and that's an important issue here. I moved here for a safe, quiet, serene, and secure environment on a dead-end cul-de-sac street near Selleck Woods at the end. It was most desirable. I wanted to be comfortable, to casually walk around our building without the worry of traffic and cars passing by. I live with 76 other seniors, and we're expecting the same tranquil life a senior community deserves in the town of Darien and the dead-end street that the owner of this land should consider. We've talked about the noise factor. We've all mentioned it. It will be unbearable. It will be increased traffic with the 3-story high building, 60 apartments. I've lived in a townhouse complex in Rye, New York. I know in a 13-unit complex, we had about 10 kids. That's only 13 units. You're talking about 60 units. We figure 60 cars at least, and it could double. If you have 2-bedroom units, we're going to have more cars. Now, if you've ever walked around our establishment, we have a peaceful patio in the backyard of our complex where residents dine and socialize all the time. The noise of construction, number one, and then with the traffic on the road, will totally interrupt our living standard there. I don't understand the town of Darien changing the land use of a great peaceful property in the back to make it a multi-story apartment complex. Basically, I feel our needs as senior residents are being overlooked in the town of Darien. I think we should be considered. We're part of the tax-paying structure in this town, and I think that we're important people to be listened to and to consider that when this complex is being done. And thank you very much for listening.
Sure, you're welcome. Thank you for your time and comments.
You're welcome.
Yeah, Jack, you're up.
Okay, I'm over here. My name is Jack Grams.
Check, spell your last name, sir. I'm sorry. Thank you.
Grams. Grams.
Yep.
Grams.
A G. Okay, got it.
G. Yeah.
Welcome, sir.
Thank you. Thank you for the opportunity as well. My wife and I have been residents at the Selleck Woods facility for the past 2 years. This unexpected plan to raise the 3 Parklands Drive building immediately behind Selleck Woods property and the proposed construction of a complex with 60 residential apartments has come as a tremendous surprise to me and my wife, and a very negative one at that. My wife and I, and as you have heard, many other Selleck Woods residents are very opposed to this project as currently defined. We feel that the large scope of the project is totally disproportionate to the size of the project's very small property footprint and its very limited road access. It seems to us that the large size of the project and the small size of the property are totally incompatible. One, on top of the size differential, the property's limited road access presents another set of very real, very difficult problems at the Selleck Woods site. After looking at all the project documentation that you have out on your website, it is amazing to me that the approval process for this project has even gotten this far. It is such a change. Now, it is certainly understood that with the COVID disease as a background, the office space market is under very significant pressure. There's no question about that. Our apartment looks out onto the onto the parking lot for the 3 Parklands site, that building. 2 years we've been here, and I don't think I've seen that parking lot fill 25% max over a 2-year period. And this is before COVID. So I don't like this business when they come back and say, well, yeah, but it's COVID. And that building was not utilized very much. And then to put in the new place that is going to be filled, or at least the applicant certainly thinks it's going to be, to equate those two things is totally disingenuous. It appears to me and to many Selleck Woods residents that the Planning and Zoning Commission is really putting aside all common sense standards that just strike you if all you do is watch what's going on around here, and the fact that building is basically empty, and maybe in the last 6 months it's COVID, but before it was not filled anywhere close to capacity. And now we're comparing an old capacity unit from traffic point of view to the new situation with the new residents. I think it's really unfair to make that comparison.
You all set, sir?
No, please. I'm just reviewing my notes. In summary, the residents of the Selleck Woods and the owners of the adjacent properties are strongly urging that the commission ask the applicant to go back to the drawing boards and, if necessary, propose a project of a substantially reduced size, a size that reasonably reflects the small footprint of the property and the very limited road access problem. I would also like to comment on the project from a senior living resident perspective. We've lived here for 2 years, as I've said. Individuals moving into a senior living facility do so with great trepidation. At least one of you on the commission have probably been involved with this major lifestyle change for one of your elderly loved ones. Certainly, all of you on the commission can understand that this major lifestyle change, moving from what I call outside the bubble into the bubble, is a very, very big deal when you move to a senior living facility. Both the individuals involved and their families evaluate senior living facility alternatives in great detail. Final decisions about the facility they choose involves so many different factors. After a very complex decision-making process, it is certainly understandable that a new resident and their families would expect a reasonable level of stability at the facility of their choice. Some level of change will, of course, always occur everywhere, but the impact of this project on the Selleck Woods facility will be far beyond anything that would be considered normal. The negative impact on this project on the Selleck Woods facility will be way, way, way over the line of any reasonable level of change. The approval and completion of this project, as currently proposed, will have such a deleterious short-term and long-term impact on Selleck Woods facility that it will become nearly unrecognizable to the current residents. So we respectfully ask the commission to have the applicant significantly reduce the scope of this project. Please insist that the applicant bring the size of this project in line with the small size of the property footprint and the site's extremely limited road access. Thank you for your attention and for the opportunity to speak.
And our last speaker.
I'm Kenneth Pekin. That's H-E-E-K-I-N.
Your first name, sir?
Kenneth, K-E-N-N-T-H.
Welcome, Mr. Henneth. Thank you.
Thank you as well. I don't know if the commission or anybody else has given much thought to who we are. We're residents of Darien, but we're a unique demographic. One of the things that really surprised me or that I didn't anticipate when I moved here is how quickly other residents would become very close friends. And sort of in conjunction with that, what the shortness of the lifespan of residents who had become my very close friends. And I'm terribly concerned about the construction project itself. It's quite possible that a resident would come here at the beginning of the project and their last days or weeks or months or years would be filled with construction going on, and they would never have the tranquility and the peaceful and the dignified life that they were hoping to have here. It's my understanding that the approval process for this facility was fairly lengthy. And that tells me that when the decision was made that you would accept a facility such as ours in Darien, that implies a commitment on your part to meet the needs of this new group of people that were coming in. And to give you an idea maybe of who we are, I have many friends who have died in less than 6 months since arriving here. My next door neighbor, Jean, is one of them. My partner in Scrabble was another. She was a great friend. She was also a resident of Darien. She used some of your senior facilities to play bingo. She either was a terrific bingo player or a terrific liar because she regularly informed us of her winnings. Anyway, she died from Parkinson's in a fairly short time. There was a good friend of mine, Nancy. She was from China. She had a really interesting background. She died very quickly. And there are many others, and these people are, you know, they're friends of mine. And I want to see us be considered as a special group of people. You know, when you talk about senior housing, I'm thinking my oldest daughter's on Medicare. I assume she's a senior, but she's not a senior like I'm a senior. And it seems to me that when you accepted us, there's an implied commitment that you would meet our needs. And we feel like we're good tax-paying citizens. We're fulfilling our part of the bargain. And I hope you'd re-examine what you think is your commitment and the significance of your commitment to this particular group of people who've come to join your community, seeking, as I say again, dignity. You know, this is a final act for us. Even those of us, I figure I'm above average for lifespan here. I came when the place opened in March of 2019. I'm here. I've seen others pass. I don't know what our average age is, but I figure I'm on the far side of that line. Thank you very much for giving me some time to express my idea. The one final thing I'm asking, I was encouraged when you say these things don't go quickly, because I'm urging a pause. I'm sure you did your public duty in announcing this meeting and this program, but none of us attended that first meeting. We're playing catch up. I heard the wonderful presentation from the O'Briens. We're nowhere near at that level, and I'd like to have that input to your consideration. Thanks a lot.
You're welcome, sir. Thank you very much for your comments. Mr. King, do you have anybody else that would like to speak in your group?
Folks, we all done?
Yes.
We're all set. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Just for full disclosure, me personally, I'm very compassionate towards people that live in Selleck Woods. My wife is the lead nurse at Atria, which is a similar facility to Selleck Woods on the other side of town. And my father-in-law has looked into moving into Selleck Woods. It makes me very happy that we have your building today. We approved that, I'm going to say in 2017, 2018, something like that on the commission. It was controversial that we had that project brought forth, and I'm very pleased that we did approve it, and that all you 92 or 76 or 72 residents live there. And we do welcome you into town. So it's yes, we do take this stuff very serious. I can tell you a couple quick points. There's other construction projects that are in town right now that are under construction, and people do live near those projects and didn't expect when they bought their houses that it would go into construction, but it did. With this particular site, if the ownership today wanted to tear down the existing building and rebuild a 67,000 square foot office building at the same exact spot as the existing 37,000 square foot office building, they could do that without a zoning change. They could do it without a special permit. The only thing they would need is site plan review and a parking study. The parking requirement for a 67,000 square foot office building is greater than a 60 unit apartment building that is the same exact size. That's why we look at these items.
Aaron, right?
Mr. Olivani, can I respond to what you just said? This is Christina Orsi Leroy from 23 Fairmead, because it was incorrect and I'm very upset.
We're going to take another person first, Ms. Oro, if you don't mind.
Aaron Wright.
Aaron Wright, is she in the room? You're next.
Yeah, hi.
Welcome.
Hi. I'm at 150 Old Kings Highway North.
Okay.
It's basically the second house on the left as you would come out of Parklands. So I mean, I agree with all the points that all the neighbors have made. I don't want to, reiterate and say things that they've already said. I just want to say that our neighborhood, we have been hit. Listen, I moved to Darien in 1984. I think that's when Craig said the building was originally built. And yes, the town has done a tremendous job with the diversification of Darien's housing program, and that's a wonderful thing. But this neighborhood, I've lived in this house for 28 years. We just got slammed in the past 3 years between the East Lane project and the Parkland Drive assisted living. We went from, just very quiet to all of a sudden, I think they have over 100 units in the assisted living. And then they put 12 units that were to be in one person's private. It was a private property there. There was a little preschool there, but there was a few kids. It was never anything. Some of the issues that I have, and I know that my neighbors have, we talked about traffic. Everybody talked about traffic, is when the East Lane project happened, they said, oh, well, we did our traffic studies. And I don't know if they came on a Sunday at 3 or when they came, but they said, it's fine. You don't need anything. The traffic on this road is outrageous. If you talk to the Darien School Board, you'll know that they have the buses stop with each kid at every stop because the cars are flying here in the morning. So the idea now that they're going to put a sidewalk to do with Abilis, because they've discovered, oh, guess what? It is a problem. So the first study said it wasn't a problem, then a study was later done saying that, oh, it is a problem. We know it's a problem. To have 60 units that have 120 or so parking spaces is an outrageous amount of cars coming in. I lived here when it was an office building. I know, I spent so much time in Selleck Woods, I'm always walking down there. When I moved in, it was more of an active building. I remember that. But for the past over 10 years, nothing to do with COVID, that building is a quiet office building. Half the time, a lot of those, I can tell you the offices that used to sit empty because I used to walk right by them. There'd be some cars in there, nothing crazy. When they did come and go, it was office hours. To your point, Stephen, about making it an office. Great. Come out, pull in the morning and leave. That's it. You're done. A couple people come out at a lunch hour. The idea that you have 60 units there with people coming and going all the time is crazy. Another point I want to make, Tom Conway, I think you brought it up. Listen, the people that live here on Old Kings Highway North and the people that live here on Bayberry and Wakeman and Circle, all of us, I mean, first of all, you have UPS trucks, you have FedEx trucks, you have Amazon all over the place. The last thing we want to solve this problem is to put a traffic light there. That would create so much more traffic and congestion here. Talk about density in our lovely neighborhood. It's going to be completely crazy if we have to put a traffic light there to solve this problem. So I think I think it was Jim Rand. He said it. You come over that highway from the post road, it is always crazy. It's who's turning left onto the highway, who's not. It's crazy. Accidents have happened. A person came over the highway and like flew right into the woods there across from my house. A guy he was flying to go on the highway and flew onto my front lawn, broke through my fence. That we didn't report because he was illegal. He had no insurance. And he said, could I please go to Home Depot, get the parts and fix it and build the fence and fix it for you? And we said, okay, fine, do that. So I just think that to have 60 units is way too much. The other point I want to make is I made this with the East Lane project, and Dave Genovese did solve it by not doing blasting. It was kind of awful on the other end because we were in a pandemic and we were all working from home and we had the drilling going incessantly, like it was awful. But when they built what we call the spaceship, the assisted living, because it's so big, my house, my neighbor's house, my other neighbor's house, my people across the street, all of us, our houses were trembling and shaking when they do this blasting. Now, this project is going to be a little bit further away. I don't know. My house went through drilling over behind it. It went through the assisted living. My house is the oldest registered house in this town, built in 1705. I don't know how much my house can take more of this. I know for a fact I had cracks all over my ceiling from when they did the assisted living. Literally, it was like crazy. So I know this is a little bit down, a little bit further away. I'm hoping that that's going to be okay. I'd like to, Dave Genovese was going to have an engineer come in, but he ended up doing the hoeing, whatever it's called instead. But I would say that affected all of my neighbors. We were all talking about it. In terms of, I'm just going to mention one little thing about water. We talked about water, going here, there. I will say, because we walk there so much, you can have a very moderate rainy day and you come out on Fairmead Road, that entrance to Selleck Woods, and it is swampy and wet. Like you can't even, we were like, oh shoot, we can't get through. We have to cut back around and we'll go back around Parklands. So I don't know who's saying that that's not going to be a problem, because it is a problem now. I feel bad for anybody living in that area there is getting swamped out. That's something that should be looked at. But I think if you could, 60 units, too much, 120 parking spaces, too much. It's too much for our neighborhood. Craig said it himself. He said this was all about diversification throughout the town. We just got slammed in 3 years. I'll let somebody else pick it up from there.
Great, thank you.
So, Steve?
Hold on. Aaron, that flooding you're talking about, is that on Old Kings Highway, or is that near on Fairmead you're talking about?
I'm sorry, there's two entrances to Selleck Woods. One is on Fairmead, the other is Parklands. So usually like you can walk through one, come out the other, or walk down one, go out the other. And it's right there at the end of Fairmead Road, right there. That entrance to Selleck Woods, right there at Fairmead.
Right,
It could just be an average rainy day, and I'll take my dog for a walk because I'm like, oh, I can go through there, and it's really wet and muddy and swampy there.
I was there on Sunday. I know what you're talking about. So that's the gated, there's a gate on it.
There's a little gate there, yeah.
Just town's parking, right? Okay, thank you. Do we have an Andrea? Is it Huntington?
Hi, yes.
Yes.
Welcome,
Hi.
Andrea.
Thank
You're
you.
not-
You don't want me to talk? Okay, fine.
My name's Andrea Huntington. I live on 18 Fairmead Road with my husband and two small children. I'd like to speak about the letter that I wrote and sent tonight. I'm writing, and I first want to thank the folks on the P&Z committee. I know this is part of the process, and I know it can feel painful at times, but it is so important that you listen to the residents and hear what we have to say. I'm writing to express my strong opposition and grave concerns with the proposed 60-unit apartment complex at 3 Parklands. My husband and I, with our two small children, moved to Fairmead Road 6 years ago. We moved to this town and to this neighborhood to fulfill a dream of living in a close-knit community with New England small town character, a town that values home ownership, strong education, local business, a town that, yes, seeks to grow and develop, but with the right pace, parameters, and gradual development plans in place to maintain the special character of this special community. We have been extremely disappointed and dismayed as what has happened in our neighborhood over the last several years. Development of a massive high-density senior living facility that is only at 70% occupancy, 18 months of bridge construction, proposals to cut down trees on Little Brick Road, a new residence on East Lane that was just built and sold to us as housing for disabled adults that is already being reviewed for zoning changes to allow for a change in definition. And now the 3 Parklands proposal, another high-density building and adjacent to a single-family zoned area and a protected nature preserve. This proposal is nothing short of a Hail Mary pass by the applicant who has failed to profit from his existing office space and is looking at a last-ditch effort to save his investment. We have to do better than that. This is not in the best interest of the town, its residents, its neighbors, or the environment. This does not enhance the quality of our life for our residents or the quality of the physical environment. Here are the reasons I don't support this project. 1, lack of consumer demand. I do not believe there is demand for this type of dwelling in Darien. We have multiple housing projects in construction already to add to our existing multifamily housing stock. Plus, these projects are being built in much more attractive areas, walkable to amenities, train stations, etc., that are already zoned as high density. We spoke about, Craig's mentioned the words gradually develop. Why are we rushing to approve an additional housing project when we don't even know if these projects will succeed? Do we know what the demand is for Corbin and Norotan? What's the marketing strategy? What do the real estate agents say? Do they have any pre-sold units yet? I don't think this is in our town's development strategy. It should not be build it and let's see if they come. Number 2, this will increase concern of traffic. I won't go into detail. I would just implore P&Z, come during prime time, come at bus hours, see what happens when the school bus comes and motorists routinely do not stop when the bus driver opens up the stop sign. Motorists excessively speed to get on I-95, to get kids to sports, to get to make the train. They use 139 Old Kings Highway driveway as a turnaround. They knock down mailboxes. They turn around on our lawn area. The traffic study was not a fair representation of the traffic flow of this area. There are 17 children under the age of 18 that live on Fairmead Road. Number 3, this puts critical protected natural spaces at risk. If it is true that we are not required to do an environmental impact report, I find that to be outrageous. I am a friend of Selleck Woods. I am on that board. I've spent countless hours volunteering in that woods to clean up and preserve and protect. I am concerned that this project will damage all the hard work that has been done. We're looking at massive construction debris, dust, particulates, heavy machinery, noise pollution, commercial lighting, more paving, more parking. Will this not disrupt the wildlife and animal habitats? Who's going to visit the park the next 2 years when construction is heavy underway? What has the developer applicant done or will commit to doing in terms of incorporating green building design? Don't you think that's in our best interest to push the envelope? What best practices, green engineering technology will be used to convince me and other stewards of the land that this structure belongs in the backyard of a nature preserve? Putting up a pergola and a few extra parking spots isn't going to cut it. That protected space deserves more. As mentioned, number 4, this will create additional flooding. We're going to build a high-density multifamily residential dwelling in an area that's been deemed to have very slow infiltration rates, which means increased flooding can be expected in these areas and areas downstream. That will be a problem for us residents on Fairmead Road as well as Dunlap Woods. What has the developer done to include best practices for storm runoff? Are we following critical guidelines for low impact development to protect water quality? Given the issues we've seen with the senior living, I'm not convinced. 5, this is not consistent with our town development plans. Okay, this is not within a half-mile walking distance to commuter hubs and train station, which was a clear recommendation in the town plan for conservation and development. It's 1.3 miles. Nobody walks to the train station. All of us drive. It will not be any different at 3 Parklands. More cars, more traffic, more parking, more problems. Finally, and most importantly, this developer is proposing to build a 3-story building, which will dwarf surrounding residential buildings and create an unsightly view from Selleck's and Dunlap Woods. This proposed building design and scale is not harmonious with the community suburban character that we are so keen to protect in Darien. We just said no to 7-Eleven in a low density, and this proposal seems like it's 10 times the scale of that in a residential area adjacent to a natural protected preserve. It just makes no sense. In summary, I ask you to reconsider this project. It's not the right time. It's not the right building. It's not the right place for this type of structure. Please protect our open spaces and the character. That is the reason why so many of us chose to live in Darien. Thank you very much.
Thank you, ma'am. I appreciate your comments. Okay, next speaker. I think there was a woman, Tina R.C. Leroy. Is she still here?
So Steve, I want to, before I lose my place, because I wrote something I want to read, but you said in a very defensive manner, to which I take umbrance to, that, let me finish, please.
Just please state your name and address for the record.
You've got it. It's Christina Orsi Leroy, 23 Fairmead and 9 Fairmead. And you said that Bob Gillen could tear this building down and build something twice as big without a permit, and that's patently false. This building was built in 1980 under a special permit because it was built under the old DOR 5 zone. DOR 5 was Design Office Research Zone. It no longer exists, as you well know. It was built. I mean, I know the details because I was very good friends with Nancy Glanville, who at the time was head of the Beautification Commission, along with Janet Sargent and a lot of other Darien, what I will call the social set. And they worked very hard to ensure that even after this building was built, the FAR was reduced, and this building cannot increase 1 foot in size. I'm sure Jeremy can fill you in on the details. So to say to us in a meeting that they could do something and build a bigger building, to me seems just, what's the word, uninformed. You know, that's just not what he can do with that building. And then you talked about how the building has this wonderful drainage plan. The drainage plan, which I read in detail, even though we got a document dump at the last minute and you're smiling, that drainage plan doesn't address the east side of the building at all. So I'm going to formally request at this moment to get an east side drainage study, because as Aaron pointed out, we have vernal ponds that accumulate at the entrance to Fairmead Road. And when Mr. Gillen built the patio behind his building, he filled in what I believe were wetlands. I had Otto Thiel over here, and I took him to court because we had ferns back there and a couple of skunk cabbage, and suddenly they're gone and there's land there. So I believe we need to do a wetland study back there. The land level behind the wall adjacent to Fairmead Road is like 4 feet higher than Fairmead Road, and it didn't used to be that high. I think I'm the longest, well, I'm certainly the oldest resident on Fairmead, but the longest one here. Bob Gillen has been a serial, I'm not finished. Bob Gillen has been a serial violator since he bought that building. The best thing that happened to Bob was that he got out of bankruptcy by selling to LCB, who I really believe tried to do the right thing. However, we had very faulty studies, and as you saw at my house, I'm spending $10,000 on drainage because the LCB plan is so flawed that my house, which did not flood during Sandy or Irene or any other event, now gets water in the basement. That's really upsetting to me. And as we dug down, it's completely clay. There is no place for that water to go. So now that I've corrected you on the history of the building, and it's very important to understand is the permits for that building, because when that building was put in, and I went to talk to Jeremy when I moved to Darien, I said to Jeremy, I want to understand the permits. So Jeremy talked to me about it, and he said they can't build anything on that side. There's a dumpster on the park side of the building. It has to be between the garage entrances so it doesn't disturb the neighbors. That was part of the special permit. The other part of the special permit, oh, you're shaking your head, Jeremy, but you were there and I have the emails from you. You can check your emails. The other thing that was in place was that they had to put in trees for planting. This plan that this man has put in place shows no planting, a very small green belt on the residential side of the building. So the assumption that this project will not attract children is completely flawed. Mr. Olivani, when you were here, you said to me, oh, well, there's hardly any children over at Avalon. So, of course, I called the Board of Ed, and this is all available on the town website. Right now, there are 61 children in the 189 units at Avalon. Now, Avalon's on 32 acres. Granted, there's some conservation place, but one of the numbers that Craig Flaherty has still not given me is, and people don't seem to understand, is the conservation space that exists for this building was put in place when the special permits were given for this building to be built in the early 80s. So there is no way that you can take that conservation space. There's a green belt between the residential zone and the building, and then there's a conservation area on the other side of the building. So his buildable area is what I have been asking for. Right now, the LCB building has 90% lot coverage, excluding the conservation easement, 90%, a little bit over development. Now, they gave me those numbers at LCB. I called them up in Massachusetts. They've been extremely accommodating and very forthcoming. And they said, if you include the conservation easement, it's 70% lot coverage. Gillen's project, without the conservation easement on the actual building area, I believe is also at 90%, but nobody will give me that number. So I'm going to ask again for that number because that's very important. And then this is, so I wanted to just correct some of the things I heard tonight because we don't have an engineering study for the east side of the building. We have supposedly permeable pavement, which we know has not worked at Norotan Presbyterian Church, that Craig Flaherty worked on that project. I've gone over in the rain a few times to photograph it, and I will follow with photos. And then, Mr. Olivani, when you were here to look at Selleck's Woods, you were taking pictures of the buildings under the coverage of fall leaves. Why don't you come back in the winter when we have a lot of sun, a lot of light pollution, and the buildings are looming over us? I just feel that that was really disingenuous. So the other thing that I really object to was we keep talking about how we're going to add to the affordable housing stock. So the math for affordable housing units is misleading because these are temporary affordable units. So while the town's inclusionary zone asks for a 12% affordable or 12.5%, and 830G is 10%, so we're getting this 2% bump. Remember, no. Correct me on that because I'm not 100% sure on that. I see you shaking your head.
Keep going, you're fine.
So we're getting temporary affordable units that will roll into being market rate in 40 years. So we are building the housing stock by 60 units. And 40 years from now, we're going to have to come up with, 6 or 7 or whatever is more affordable using. We're punting the affordable issue down the road. We need permanent affordable. So you can't compare the density of this unit to the density of, let's say, the town-owned affordable projects, whether it's the old Allen O'Neill or the Royal or whatever, because those are permanent affordable units that the town planned for, designed, they can add to, and they're never going to be some builder just trying to get the most density in and throwing us some, studio apartments as affordable. So this math doesn't work. Mrs. Stevenson came out in favor of the project in August in a letter to the town. Craig Flaherty referred to it in his conversation. And she said this will add valuable affordable units to the town, but that's sort of hogwash. That's they're adding temporary affordable units to the town and allowing a builder to overdevelop an already overdeveloped site on critical habitat, which has zero ability to absorb any water. This kind of project densities puts us on a treadmill and uses expensive town services, adding to that density. Now, I briefly discussed with Jeremy, who is our chief planning officer, why we're doing this. Why isn't the town planning? I mean, you're a planning officer. Why aren't we planning for affordable housing? If this is a way to get affordable housing units. And he said to me, and I quote, I spoke to Mr., I hope I pronounce his name right, Sini, something like that. And he says, we would rather have builders pay for affordable units than the town. Well, that is really short-sighted. The town has, enough money to buy the Oxford school field. I think we can, and that vote is a story for another day. So I feel like we don't need to throw mud against the wall and hope it sticks. We really need to add to affordable long-term units that are not going to be market rate down the road. Now, that is just the affordable portion. We have another assumption, and you said this to me, Mr. Olvani, when you were on our street. There are going to be no kids in this project. There's no kids in Avalon. Show me the kids in Avalon. Well, I really take umbrance to that. So as I said, you can go on the Darien Public School Town website. We've had an average of 93 students at average for the last 3 years and 42 students at the Heights at Darien. That's about a 50% rate of students in these projects. And they said when they built Avalon, they said when they built Kensington, there would be no kids. All these projects have about 50% kids. And you know what? It's not in the 3 bedrooms, because what I can't get out of the Board of Ed or even Avalon is who lives in what unit where, because I know that the response is going to be, oh, these are studios, 1 and 2 bedrooms. Do you know, I sat in Avalon because my mom is in the biggest 3-bedroom unit over there. She's a senior citizen, and so are a bunch of her friends from her club. And they have all the big units. You know who's in the small units? The single moms with kids. The studio next to her has 3 kids and a mom, which is the maximum density you can have. So it's not the 3 bedrooms that are taking the kids. So it doesn't matter if he's building studios or 1 or 2 bedrooms. The average age in Darien is 40.1 years old. I'm sorry if I'm boring you, but that is the reality of our numbers here in town, so that we have a really young town. We have, at 65, I can't believe I'm that old. I am one of 11% of the people in town who are over 65. And a lot of them live at the residence at Selleck's Woods, which is a fabulous facility. I looked at it for my mom, and she may even end up there because it would be nice to be able to walk over and help take care of her. But the point just being that a lot of the things that Craig talks, and he's very glib, this is incorrect information. So I think it's really important for us to get these numbers down. If we have 60 units there, 30 of those units are going to have children in them. End of story. And to not even consider a stoplight at the end of the street, and to say, oh, we checked traffic reports and there's no accidents. I can't tell you how many times I've swept up glass at the top of that street. We have 2 houses on the street, one at 23 and one at 9. And depending on if we're up in New Hampshire for the year or not, we'll just rent out our big house and live in the little house. And I used to spend all my time sweeping glass up there. And people don't stop for the buses. And let's talk a little bit about the traffic study. The traffic study was done on a Friday when nobody was going to school that day. Everybody had to homeschool because of COVID. So I think the traffic study is completely invalid, and I would respectfully request that the Gillen group, or whatever they call themselves, do a traffic study on a regular day during a full day on a nice day, because you can't do it on a rainy day. No one's out walking. You've got to do it on a regular school day where people are going out and doing activities, not on a COVID Friday when everybody's home being homeschooled. That is just, to me, a completely invalid study. So, and we did talk, people have talked about stoplights. Steve, you said no one talked about a stoplight. You know what? There was a whole group of people that talked about a stoplight. when David Genovese was putting in his facility on East Lane. People have been talking about a stoplight here. We have a 5-way intersection. It's going to be incredibly dangerous. And we have a lot of children here, and if you have a facility there, it will be more dangerous. I feel the town's plan, which has designated this part as, quote, a possible development opportunity zone, has really reversed redlined Fairmead Road. This plan enables the town to lump or overdevelop targeted locations. In my opinion, the site is already overdeveloped and has eroded our quality of life by blocking the sun, adding noise, and for many of us, causing flooding to our homes. You told me I should be suing LCB, but I think I should be suing the town of Darien because you couldn't get the drainage right and you approved the building. I don't understand how that happens. We're doing a peer review and everybody's getting flooded. How did we get it so wrong, and why do we want to trust you on this project? Clearly we don't, or we wouldn't be having this building. And another thing I'm going to be looking into is how can we recalculate the way the town calculates height. If I hear one more time that this building is 35 feet tall, I'm going to scream. You're telling me that the 8 feet on top of the roof to cover the utilities doesn't count? It still blocks our sun. It still blocks our view of the sky. You know, it's just a ridiculous calculation. And I think that we're going to have to, as a town, revisit how we do a lot of things. I think it's very important for the people listening to understand that this plan for the overlay zone was proposed and designed by the builder himself, and you all approved it. You proved it. The 5 of you or the 6 of you approved this plan, but he designed it for his site with the hope that you would approve a building for that site. That's how it works in Darien. The builder designs the overlay zone, and then we give him the building. I think it's a little bit backwards. And I'm just really upset with how you've handled this. I think that there's going to be a way for us to revisit this, certainly. But and I will go in and talk to Jeremy Ginsburg and find out how we can perhaps revote the overlay zone. And I say that because when the current zoning rules were written, it was about 40 years ago. And when the zoning rules were written, if you wanted to change it, do an overlay zone, and people didn't like it, we could get signatures, which I believe Sandra got 300 signatures. I could be wrong. And then if we got 300 signatures, we needed, I believe it was, hold on, let me look at my notes, because I was talking to a zoning attorney here, and he said it was, we needed 3/4 of the people on the commission to vote yes. And if someone recused themselves, it counted as a no. Now, for the last 28 years, we've only had 5 or 6 people on the commission. So all of a sudden, those numbers don't work. We need to relook at our regulations on how we can protect ourselves from this kind of zoning actually occurring in the beginning. That you all, as the zoning officials, should know the history of this building before you make a statement that this guy can tear down the building and rebuild it twice the size, because he can't, unless you don't afford the zone. Oh, and let's talk about enforcing the zoning. Bob Gillen put a patio behind his building without a permit. The town gave him an after-the-fact permit. Bob Gillen moved the dumpsters in our sight line, even though his special permit said the dumpsters had to be between the 2 garages. The town gave him an after-the-fact permit. Bob Gillen he remodeled almost the entire floor of the building, and I know that because I was in there a lot, and the town gave him an after-the-fact permit. The town has enabled this man to make one bad decision after another. He was in bankruptcy. He doesn't take care of his own buildings. He's basically a slumlord. And now he's, for all I know, in financial trouble again. Why are we bending over backwards to help this guy? It's not helping the town. We're lining his pockets. We're not helping our town. And it's concerning to me that the zoning board and the zoning officials are not putting their teeth into what is clearly, as Susan Cameron called him when she was on the board, a serial violator who was untrustworthy. Her words, not mine. Bob Gillen represented to us neighbors that the senior living facility would block highway noise and be a quiet neighbor. Just the opposite has occurred because the building slingshots noise down our street. The number of ambulances and emergency vehicles additionally adds to the noise. And of course, this is always in the middle of the night. It is astounding. The town needs to do a sunshade study. And I would request a sunshade study from this building because we get no sunlight in the afternoon here. Because I'm at a 70-foot grade. I think the my neighbors are at 65, yeah. So they're 180 feet above us. So we're losing sunlight. Are you telling me that this building isn't going to take our sunlight away? It is. So we need a sunshade study and we need a sound study, because clearly nobody understood the ramifications of the building as neighbors. And I want to just come out and say I was very for the senior living facility, because I knew the guys from Kensett had a handshake deal with Bob Gillen through a friend of mine at Toll Brothers, who these guys used to work with. And he called me up and said, oh yeah, they're going to put in, 500 affordable housing. Sorry, you're holding your head, Steve, but this is a lot of information and I want to dump it into the record to make sure you all understand what's really going on here. So I thought, well, senior living facility doesn't use schools. We need a place for our seniors to stay close to their families. This sounds great. LCB has a great reputation. They're supposed to be really nice guys. I did a lot of research, and they have built actually a nice facility. It just blocks our sun and floods us. But other than that, Mrs. Lincoln, how do you like to play? So this new project, even if it's 30 units, will add substantially to traffic. A traffic light is absolutely required if this project moves forward, even a diminished size. I have been in touch with Hartford and certain traffic people and who are familiar with this part of town, and they laughed and said, have you ever gotten off exit, I think it's 13 up here where the old Red Coach Grill used to be? What moron in town designed that exit? You have to get off and then you have to immediately move right from 2 lanes to 1. We have a real traffic problem in this corner of town in front of Splash Car Wash, because if you get off 95, you have to merge right and it's 2 lanes and people are trying to move left. A lot of fender benders happen there and they don't get reported, but the Splash Car Wash people tell me this. So I've talked to Hartford about the stoplight and they all agree that we need a stoplight here. Why their traffic study tells us we don't, I don't understand. It would be, if the town does a joint venture or something and puts a second senior living facility there, that would make a lot of sense. Or maybe it's a private senior living. Or if Bob Gillen really believes that this is only going to have seniors, then age restrict it. There's a lot of ways to go back to the drawing board and help Bob out of his financial problem. But other development on this site is just not in line with the townwide plan of conservation. Sandra already said that, so I'm not going to go over that again. But this Gillen plan does intrude into the residential neighborhood by having a footpath through the barbecue area. And you brought that up yourself, Mr. Olvani, which I really appreciate. Why would you have a path come through the residential side of the building unless you wanted to intrude on the neighbor? That would be me, who is busting your chops for 10 years for being the crummy neighbor that you've been. He did that completely on purpose. And if you have a barbecue pit, why would you have it on the residential side of the building? Why wouldn't you put it on the park side so that they could enjoy the parkland and get sun? You're putting it on the north side of the building with no screening? Are you kidding me? I think that's absolutely obnoxious, in fitting with his personality. This plan needs to be modified to respect the neighbors and their privacy. The entrance to Selleck's Woods, why are you moving that in the sight line? Why are you putting a pergola up there? Offer the pergola for the kids and give them covered parking, covered standing space, because there'll probably be 30 kids in that building. So give them a place like like Kensett did. There's also another entrance already. We call that the Chris Filmer entrance. It says not a public stair to Selleck's Woods. There's already 2 entrances over there. That's enough. We don't need a new entrance. I feel extending the sidewalk all the way down Parklands to the existing entrance to the park, and perhaps even past that to what's known as the private Chris Filmer entrance, will be a safer alternative for the project. We can add stop signs. We can add speed bumps like they've done at Avalon. These will keep the traffic down. The idea of moving the entrance because it's a dangerous location, again, is obnoxious. Chris is simply moving it in the sight line of my home and the home of the Passamartis. I do not know why he wants to poke them in the eye, but that just seems to be his nature. The pergola is not in keeping with the natural look of the park. In addition, there is no screening or fences on the residential side of the property, which is where we neighbors need screening. Saying the rock ledge will screen our view on the patio is not accurate. I will share photos of the view from our deck and our front yard when the leaves are down. Fairmead Road has always had a vernal pond at the entrance to Selleck's Woods. Aaron just brought that up. But that's been actually man-made. For years, the Department of Public Works has driven down Fairmead Road and built Fairmead Road up with aggregate. Steve, are you with me? I see you talking to somebody else. It's insulting. The Department of Public Works has always built up Fairmead Road with aggregate. They stopped doing that and said Fairmead was not a road. Fairmead Road, according to the deed from the town of Darien, when they purchased the road in the 1970s, has Fairmead Road going all the way down practically to the train tracks, because that land all belonged to the same family, the Geiger Fosses. Now, I've been in touch with their relatives. I've also been in touch with the people that put all the fences up. So there's a number of things that need to happen, because you can't build within a certain feet of wetlands. So all that area that he filled needs to be, I mean, you can call someone from Environmental Land Solutions or maybe Otto Thiel and do your soil tests. But certainly there's wetlands on the Fairmead Road, particularly on the left side of the road as you go into the park. So we have some issues that just haven't even been touched on. I know that this is a really, really hard job. This is a really contentious what do you call it, application. I think we're all really upset that you all would even consider this. I feel like when we ask questions that the board is defending it. I feel like the decision has already been made, and I am concerned by that. The other thing we talk about is diversity of housing. I think Andrea Huntington said something, and I have written like 20 pages here, but Mr. Hennessy said in the last meeting that this would not impact the value of our properties, just like the other building did not. Well, that's a load of hogwash. This building application just caused me to have a buyer walk away from one of my properties on the street. The other property that sold on the street, this very recently sold for $410 a square foot. The average price in town is $540 a square foot. You don't think that that building impacts us? We don't get sun. What's the number one thing a buyer wants? Light and bright, sunny, cheerful, uplifting, light and bright, sun, 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 and you're taking our sun away. How are you compensating people for that? Our street has everything on the street. Talk about diversity. This is the most diverse street in town. We have Eastern Europeans, Jewish, Hispanic, Indian, Native American, same-sex couples, you name it. And we have our own diverse little neighborhood. We have the most diverse neighborhood in Darien, according to our statistics. Try not to ruin it for us. Thank you for taking the time to listen to me tonight. I will be available for questions.
You're welcome for your time. Just to make sure that everyone understands, we follow the state regulations for affordable housing.
Well, when we have an application, the commission has to hear it.
Correct.
Legally, we're required to hear it within a certain time frame. We have a certain amount of time to keep a hearing open, and we have a certain amount of time to make a decision. So whatever's submitted to the commission, good, bad, otherwise, the commission is legally obligated to hear it. So whether the commission agrees with it, disagrees with it, votes for it, votes against it, legally, the commission is required to hear the application.
Jeremy, in that regard, is there a way, so you all voted on this overlay zone, is there a way that we can do an application to the commission to cancel the overlay zone? We don't like it. A lot of people in town have been talking about this, that they don't understand how it got approved. They just don't like the overlay zone as approved. Now, I know it was designed by Gillen for this project, and you know that you worked with him, but it doesn't mean he's going to get it approved. In other words, they thought it up, right? Isn't that how that works?
Yes, members of the public are allowed to put forth zoning regulation amendments. And as I said, the commission has to have hearings on zoning regulation amendments, kind of like what we're doing tonight. And then they have to make a decision. So.
And Jeremy, can you confirm what I said, please, about the special permit for that building, that the FAR was reduced?
I'd have to research that, Tina. I don't want to speak out of turn.
All right. Well, you know what? I'll drop off the packet. I have it all on my desk. I can drop that off tomorrow, so you don't have to pull it out of, because it's in archives. It's so old. So I'll be happy to drop off a copy of that special permit for you tomorrow if it makes it easier for your research.
And we did, just for the record, we did have a sound study on the project. And if anybody wants to ever submit expert testimony reports, which can go into the record, those are more than welcome.
There's a sound study for this new project?
Yes.
You know, there's such a huge document dump. I do think we're going to need a continuance because there's so much to look at. Mr. I hope I say your name right, Olvani. it's just a lot of information for us to process. As you can see, there's a lot of people that are concerned about this. And, you're asking us as John Q. Public to catch up with you guys who are experts in this field. It's a lot of work.
That's right. It is a lot of work.
Yeah, so you wanted to do it.
I just got reelected. We have to keep this civil and not personal. It's not about an applicant. It's about a site plan approval, special permanent overlay zone. So let's not get personal. Let's keep it civil. Is there someone else that would like to speak to this application?
Evan Flynn.
I would.
We have an Evan Flynn.
Yes.
Welcome, Mrs. Flynn, or Miss Flynn. Sorry about that.
Thank you. My name is Evan Flynn. I live at 1 Fairmead Road, and I want to thank you for letting me speak tonight to let you know that I strongly oppose the redevelopment of 3 Parklands as it stands now. According to the 2016 Town Plan of Conservation and Development, as my neighbor Sandra has already mentioned, maintaining the residential character of the community is a key element of the plan. A corollary to this is that maintaining the character of the residential neighborhoods by continuing to seek a balance between people's desires to improve and expand their homes and the impact on their neighbors and community. Furthermore, as a policy, we need to continue careful monitoring of land uses in and around and near residential areas to minimize the impact on surrounding residential neighborhoods. I believe this development is not in keeping with the literal nor the spirit of the 2016 plan and will have a huge impact on the adjacent residential neighborhood. I spoke at the last meeting on October 19th and see that 5-6 days ago, the developer submitted a ton of documentation that it did address some of our concerns. Many of his responses are overly and intentionally complicated, evasive, and more importantly, condescending. 1, noise pollution. For example, I stated that the noise from the LCB development has increased significantly from his first building's redevelopment. His response, quote, as documented in the provided noise prediction analysis from acoustic distinctions dated September 23rd, 21, based on the proposed construction, noise in the immediate vicinity of 3 Parklands will actually be reduced. Why in the world would I believe that if in fact that is not the case for phase 1? Come on over to my backyard and hear the noise. This is not a theory or a prediction. It is a fact. The neighborhood from all over, including folks living on Norman Lane across the Post Road, readily acknowledge that the assisted living facility has created more highway noise. Unfortunately, the noise prediction analysis was not available on the P&Z site for viewing for the first building, but I feel certain that if we could go back and look at the records, I know what it would say. 2, been there, done that. Thank you for submitting the schematic for the application and for the recent photo of the 1 Parklands building. It would be more helpful to see the original schematic shown to the neighboring residents years before the LCB application when the project was sold to Atria, as I recall. Remember, there were years in between when that deal fell apart. Yes, I admit that my neighbors and I dropped the ball. You have to be incredibly diligent with weekly check-ins to know what's going on with the P&Z calendar. It's not an easy task. That is why we are fighting so hard now. We have been to this rodeo before. The LCB building is a monstrosity, and we don't want to repeat it. 3, traffic. I moved onto the street 11 years ago, and you hardly had to look onto Old Kings Highway North. Today, that's another story. It is insulting to have a developer come back with a 2-day traffic study saying the impact of 60 apartments is negligible. The office building is nearly empty. The assisted living facility is only at 68% capacity. It's very difficult to get out of our street at many times during the day. The traffic study doesn't even include Fairmead or East Lane. It is dangerous, and we are the ones that live it every day. 4, water runoff. I'm glad the developer recognizes that the lack of gutters on the huge 1 Parklands building. It does beg the question, how could this even have been approved? The drainage system has failed in the northeast corner, and before we move of 1 Parklands, before we move forward, we want guarantees that this will be fixed. What is the backup plan when the drainage routed to enter Dunlap Lake also fails? This is a really reasonable ask. 5, alternatives. We as a neighborhood feel that this is really a real David versus Goliath. We implore you to continue to do a thoughtful and strategic analysis. 1, there are several alternative office buildings qualifying under the new overlay that are closer to downtown, the train station, and do not reside right next door to a residential neighborhood. Why not wait and see how the apartments at Corbin District or Norotan Heights play out before adding more to the mix? Just because Bob Gillian is the first developer to ask for this overlay, which he in fact designed, to his building doesn't mean that's the right thing to do. If your decision to move forward with this project, if you decide that this project does get approved, please consider less density. Who said besides the developer that 60 is the appropriate number? What about 30 apartments or 20 townhouses? 3, if your design is to move forward, we will be demanding a stoplight to be put on Old Kings Highway North. It doesn't take a traffic study to plainly see that someone is going to be seriously hurt or killed with this tricky intersection. And as Aaron said, that's only going to create more traffic because the traffic is going to be lined up down towards Rowayton. Finally, I ask the committee members to really think about who is going to live in these apartments. It is highly unlikely that the young and older audience will find living by the highway, not close to downtown, nor having any building amenities, an attractive place to live, especially given the Darien real estate commands a premium. It is far more likely that there will be a lot of divorced parents buying the zip code to enable their children into the Darien top school district. I have absolutely no problem with this, but we have a responsibility to have those children, to keep those children safe and plan accordingly. And to say that there will only be 4 to 7 kids in this complex is naive or worse, deceptive. Thank you for your time.
Thank you for your comments, Ms. Flynn. Appreciate that. Anybody else on your list, Jeremy? No, that's the last one. Okay, it's now 11:45.
I had actually put my name on Jeremy's list if I can have a few minutes, and so did Lorena.
Okay.
Ally and we have Lorena Rodriguez as well.
Okay. Well, let me back up for a second.
As well.
It looks like we're going to land up, commissioners, this is for you also. It looks like we're going to land up continue this hearing for another night. So if there's no objection to that, it's going to be Tuesday, November 30th, same time, same place.
7:30 p.m. Via GoToMeeting.
Okay.
What, I'm sorry, could you say that again?
The meeting, let me talk to the commissioners first. Commissioners.
Oh, sorry.
Is everybody in agreement with that, commissioners? One more time. Okay, George is saying okay, Jeff saying yes.
Adam, yes.
Adam is saying yes. Okay, so what we're gonna end up doing is continuing this hearing. Jim's good, thanks, Jim. To November 30th at 7:30 p.m. via GoToMeeting. I don't know where it's gonna be on the agenda, but we'll figure it out when the time comes. Right now, it's
that includes.
Can I just have a few minutes? I've sat here for over 3 hours now. I really would like 5 minutes.
You're gonna get it. Just let me just lay a little bit more groundwork. No sweat.
Thank you.
I'm sorry, George.
I was wondering, will that hearing include more public comment?
Yes.
Yes. The hearing's still open.
Do you think we could suggest to the commenters that they prepare their remarks for 3 minutes or less?
That's not fair, George.
Yeah.
Tina, please. Yeah, I don't know if we're allowed to do that for limited amount of time. But we can try to say what it is. But all right, with that said, it's now 11:15. I'd like to take a couple more people that would like to speak. I would really like to finish this at 5 minutes to 11. So if we can get a couple more people that want to speak for a total of 10 minutes or less, that would be great. In the old days, we had a hard stop of 11 o'clock. We lifted that cap a while ago, but now we start at 7:30.
We do.
I'm ready to get talking if that's okay.
You go right ahead, man. But just give me your name and address for the record, please.
Sure. My name is Allison Costanzo, and I live over on Little Brook Road.
Fantastic. Welcome, Allison.
So I actually had a 7-page document that I've been modifying while people talk because we all share a lot of the same concerns. So I will get to it and just try and keep this as concise as possible.
I
My
appreciate
husband
that.
and I live on Little Brook Road on the other side of Selleck's Woods from this proposed development. Like many others in this town and from the surrounding areas, we enjoy the tranquility of living next to a nature preserve, and we take frequent walks through Selleck's Woods with our 2 young daughters. We are severely concerned with the scale of this project and how it affects and its effects on this area, specifically the nature preserve. We agree with the others that this area is not compatible for a high-density apartment building for many reasons. A zone change in this area is inconsistent with the town plan of conservation and development and Darien's own open space plan. In fact, it contradicts it. It does not take an expert with biased studies to see that the creation of 16 new units would have a strong negative impact on Selleck's Woods and the surrounding neighborhoods. The town of Darien needs to consult with their own experts on these issues. We cannot rely on the biased study that is sponsored by the developer. Besides the grander structure to the entrance of Selleck's Woods that would greatly benefit his tenants, has there been a comprehensive study to assess the environmental impact that adding 60 apartment buildings abutting such a quiet preserve might have, and brainstormed ways to alleviate these impacts? A new entrance would be nice, but it does little to offset the burden of this new development. The pandemic brought many new explorers to our woods, with a noticeable increase in dog poop bags, beer bottles, and litter. If the developer is proposing to transform our peaceful nature preserve into a main attraction for his apartments, what assurances do we have that our Selleck's woods will remain unchanged, unharmed, and undamaged? Clearly, the developer does not cherish this nature preserve for the same reasons that we do. How can we make sure that the maintenance and upkeep will be a priority after he cashes his check? The proposed development is uncomfortably close to the woods and does not provide an adequate buffer for noise and light. Outdoor lighting needs to be shielded from the wildlife area and additional measures taken to mitigate the impact that the increased sound will have on the wildlife. The additional 60 full-time households will have permanent imprint on their habitats. How will this impact the surrounding wildlife, and what measures are being taken to protect it? In addition to the negative environmental impact, has anyone from the Board of Education weighed in on the impact of future enrollment? Anybody familiar with Norwalk and Darien knows you cannot equate an enrollment study from Norwalk to an apartment complex in Darien. It's apples and oranges. The developer's paid study should be disregarded as inaccurate. Families moved to Darien solely for our exceptional school system, which is a unique trend in Darien, especially Tokenique. This trend needs to be factored into any study that is considered regarding the school system. As proposed, this development is just too big and not compatible with the area. There's no mistake that when this neighborhood was originally zoned in a residential neighborhood surrounded by single-family houses and not a safe walking distance to the train in downtown. The current density rating is 1.49. With the proposed development, it will be increased to 15. I will note that downtown Stamford has a density rating of 18.5. Why does this building have to be so big? Please, Planning and Zoning Commissioners, listen to the concerns of Darien and the surrounding communities that will be directly impacted by this development. I've read every single letter that was submitted, every single document on the website, and attended all the prior public hearings. The residents have serious concerns. Please do not let them fall on deaf ears. One size does not fit all, and this is not the direction we want for our neighborhood.
Thank you very much, Mrs. Costanza. I appreciate that. Just for the record, this right now, everyone keeps talking about this thing being rental apartments. It's not been stated and it's not been asked if this is going to be condominiums or rental apartments. I don't know if anyone cares about that, but no one ever said it's going to be renters where they're going to eventually leave. Pemberton is a condominium complex. Who do we have next?
One more.
Mrs. Rodriguez, I believe.
Is there a Mrs. Rodriguez in the meeting?
Indeed, I am right here.
Welcome, ma'am. Just state your name and address for the record, please.
Lorena Rodriguez, 139 Old Kings Highway North.
Welcome, Ms. Rodriguez. Thank you for coming.
Can you hear me? Can you guys hear me?
I can hear you perfectly. Yep. Go right ahead. You just muted your microphone. There you go. You're back on. You're good. Go ahead. Your microphone, you muted yourself, ma'am. Can you turn on your microphone? You muted yourself. There you go. Now
Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can. Yep.
Yeah. All right. So as I was saying, I'm going to keep this short because I second all of the concerns from the neighbors on Fairmead Road and the adjacent streets. But what I really want to point out is something that the reports and from the developer and Mr. Flaherty are, I mean, it's obvious, right? Let's talk common sense. We're going against a developer who has a team to try to prove all of us wrong, who wants to monetize and who clearly wants to turn around a bad business venture where his property is basically empty. And I'm sure we all agree on that. But what I would like as a resident who just moved to Darien about a year ago is for the P&Z to hear the residents out, to read the chat that I have copy pasted into a document, to review this meeting, which I have also recorded, which I have also some concerns as to some of the reactions I've seen from people, and some smirking and some laughing and so forth, which I, as a new resident, do not appreciate. But if I was to focus on the facts that the residents have expressed concerns here, one being noise, I encourage all of you to stand at the corner of my resident and my property and literally look at the exit right next to 95 and argue or comment or tell me how this property of 60 new apartments is not going to increase noise when we are literally off the exit of 95. And with that comes traffic. Again, seems to me very common sense, but it seems like I need to voice my opinion here. Traffic right off the exit of 95 with park lines coming right off there. 60 apartments, assuming there's an adult in every apartment with a car. It only seems to me like that's going to increase traffic. Again, this is just simple math to me. When we talk about our school system, someone who came from New York, young couple moved to New York. Moved from New York to Darien, looking for a single family living. We were definitely moving to Darien, not because of the restaurants on Post Road. We could have definitely gotten better restaurants and bars and, young lifestyle living in New York City. We moved here for something different. And I can assure all of you, we would not move to Darien to live in an apartment. For that, we would have stayed in New York City living in an apartment. So again, I know there's a lot of conversations about diversity, and as a Puerto Rican, born and raised in the Caribbean and moved here, woman, and my partner, or who is my wife now, we, like Christina said, and some of the other residents said, we're probably one of the most diverse streets and roads in Darien. I can assure all of you that we have already dealt with diversity. We have the senior living next to us. We have 95 next to us. We have All Kings Highway, which is a very busy road. We are literally at the exit of 95. We connect to Post Road. I'm not so sure that, any common sense and anyone here could argue that this is just the right place for this development. Should we continue to promote diversity in Darien? I can speak to it. I would love to. But I just don't think that our neighborhood is the right place. And I definitely don't think that next to one of the few parks and nature preserves that we have around us is definitely the right choice. So I'll leave it there. And I hope you guys, again, read through the comments on the chat that all the residents have expressed their concerns. And thank you for your time.
Thank you for your comments, Ms. Rodriguez. We appreciate that. There we go. It is now 5 to 11. We took 2 more people, as I said that we would. So we're going to continue this hearing to Tuesday, November 30th, which is after Thanksgiving. Again, on GoToMeeting, and we're not in person yet, but it's going to be 7:30 at GoToMeeting. And I bet you the link is going to be on the webpage.
It will be on the webpage the day before Thanksgiving.
The day, so it'll be on the Wednesday before, because you guys are closed on Thanksgiving. Okay, it'll be posted on Wednesday before Thanksgiving when where the link is. It'll also be up on Monday after Thanksgiving and Tuesday, the day of the meeting. Okay, so we're going to end the meeting, the public meeting for tonight, and pick this up again next week. Anything else we're missing? That's it. It's the last time on the agenda, right?
That's it. We can motion to adjourn tonight's meeting.
Okay. Commissioners, I would entertain a motion to adjourn tonight's meeting. Jeff Ball makes the motion. Jim Rand makes the second. All those in favor? Aye.
5-0. Thank you.
5-0. Fantastic. Thank you, everybody. See you in 2 weeks.
3 weeks.